Welcome.
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 1, 2, 3, 4. It's very matter of fact. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
It was nice. It was good.
Welcome everybody to episode
22
Yep.
of the podcast, The Gift of G.A.B. podcast.
Yep.
So smooth.
Yeah. Never thought we'd make it this far. No, I probably did. Today we have on Eli Shelton. Do you prefer Eli or Elijah?
I prefer Dr.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. Dr. Elijah Shelton recently got his PhD.
Yeah, it's been about a week and a half, so this is that window where I'm really gonna
You're really pushing the whole
really
doctor
pushing
thing.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got to cement it now, otherwise nobody will call him doctor.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, you know, all the jobs I'm gonna have after this, like everyone's gonna be a doctor, so it's not like
Oh, right.
it
Not-
matters.
yeah.
But in this situation,
In this setting.
when I'm among
Exactly.
Yeah.
Us muggles.
Muggles.
Yeah. So we have fielded a bunch of questions from the audience that are science related.
Should we go over what the PhD was on?
Yeah, we'll do. I'm just
Yeah.
sort of
Okay.
outlining what's going down. Yeah. So we fielded a bunch of questions. We have some ourselves. We're just gonna fire them off and see what Eli has to say. Quick housekeeping item though. We watched Good Will Hunting last night.
We finally did it.
Finally did it.
Yeah. It was,
Long time viewers of the podcast will know that we've been saying we're gonna watch it for a while.
Yeah.
And we did. And it was good, really good.
I thought it was really good. Eli, have you seen? Have you
I
seen it?
have seen it. It's been maybe 10 years or so.
Yeah.
I've seen
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
What did you think of the movie?
I remember enjoying it very much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also remember enjoying it very much from last
That's
night.
less impressive though.
and the whole time OT was banking against us watching the movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because
well, we were on a year-long streak of not watching it. I was like, "There's no way it's gonna happen."
we had made plans to watch it a few times and they had never come to fruition, and so OT was sort of cynical in thinking that there's no way we're gonna watch it. It just can't happen. It's never happened before. But we did. We proved him wrong.
That's
so
true.
nice.
Oh, and well, what do you think? I mean, your
Oh.
recollection is probably clearer than mine. But
I really liked it. I was saying earlier, it was a very good movie. I think it's my favorite movie, but that could just be due to one, recency bias, and two, I don't watch a lot of movies. So
Yeah. And that's supposed to be one of like the greater movies.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
it's a really good.
it is a classic movie. So yeah, I don't want to underdate that. It's very good. I really liked it.
I've seen it before, but I didn't remember it being that good. And I watched it. I was like, wow, okay, that's a really really good movie.
Yeah.
did you solve the math problem that he puts
Yeah.
on the chalkboard?
Yeah, it was actually
We paused it and went to work.
yeah. Actually, thought that was
that
was
a-
rather elementary.
Ugh.
Are those real math problems that they show on
Oh,
the chalkboard?
100%, totally is.
Because they looked like it feels like if there was a problem that took like the smartest people in the world years to solve, there'd be more than just like a couple lines on.
Well,
the
what about?
Well, it's not actually a very hard math problem. It just is one of the kind of math problems that looks cool for a movie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were going to say it's not very hard. Those mathematicians were just lazy.
No, yeah.
It took 2 years.
So what's cool is it is real math.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, when you're learning math in high school, it's all like, it's like numbers, and then you get to like, you know, using X and Y and like maybe some Greek letters.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's math. And then you go to college and then math is like proofs, and it's
Yeah.
like more like it's logic and arguing things. And then you use math and physics for doing like like differential equations and stuff like that, linear
Right.
algebra. But then I met some folks who are doing PhDs in mathematics, and I see what they're doing, and I'm like, oh, like damn, this is this looks like pictures. These are like
Yeah.
scribbles. Like this looks like Good Will Hunting. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you realize like there's a lot of math that like is really just like literally like mathematicians going up to chalkboards and drawing arrows and like braiding things and like
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
yeah, it's super
I-
super wild.
I'm just trying to like wrap my head around that, and I literally can't.
What kind of math class did they say it was in the movie? That they kept calling.
Combinatorial mathematics.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I don't know that my taxonomy of different mathematics, but what's fun is that problem, that mathematical problem in the movie Good Will Hunting. You can like go search on YouTube to like learn about it.
Oh yeah.
But once they explain what the problem is, it's the kind of problem that like probably like you guys could solve on a piece of paper.
Wow.
If you worked it out. So I would encourage you to try and solve that problem.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
could do that.
I'm a 1 in a billion kind of genius. Is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
From the wrong side of the tracks, but
Yeah, and that's not a latte, but yeah.
All right. So, Eli, why don't you tell us what your PhD was all about?
Sure. Let me do this in short a manner as possible.
Yeah, right.
Because I think my whole defense was like 50 minutes.
Yeah.
And that was going at a rapid clip.
Yeah.
what is a defense, real quick? Is that like the
sorry.
end?
Yeah. So the PhD is the degree. To get the PhD, you have to do a couple things. You have to do the classes. You have to write what's called a dissertation, just kind of like
That's a classic word that I kind of know.
yeah. It's a long document that has all of the research in it.
Yeah.
And then you do something called a defense, where you present the work in a public manner. It used to be in the before times you would do this in a lecture hall. I did this remote over Zoom, and you explain all the research that you did, and at the end of it, you'll have a committee of professors who will ask you questions, and if they think that you did it all right, then they'll say, we hereby make you a doctor, and then it's great. You
That's
come
cool.
out and you're like, yeah, I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
So some people go through all that, and they're like, the professor's like, not good enough, and you have to like just be done or something.
Well, usually what happens if you get to that point where everyone on the committee has agreed to let you defend, you have to do something really, really wrong between them saying, yes, we'll let you defend and
actually doing it.
and actually doing it. So yeah, it becomes, at least in most of the American systems, once you get to that point, like it's kind of a formality. But yeah, usually what they'll do is they'll say, when you say, hey, I want to like defend on this date, they'll be like, I don't think that's such a good idea. I think we need to sort out, what's happening in chapter 2 here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So do they try to like poke holes in your research? Is that sort of how it goes?
Sometimes I don't think they're trying to poke holes in your research. If they're doing that, like something's gone wrong at that point. If things have gone well, once you get to the point of defending, they kind of want to have a conversation with you. It's kind of like them being the professors are kind of inviting you into this club of doctors, and they're like, we're going to ask you questions that aren't like exam questions where there's one right answer, but are kind of hard questions where we want to see how you think about it.
Yeah.
And that was like really fun. It was like also, I was kind of nervous, but I was also like, oh yeah, like I can have these conversations because I've been working in this field for so long. and
Yeah.
That's so cool.
You know stuff. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
epic. How long did that take?
Oh, it took me a long time. I graduated from college in 2011.
Okay.
And then I worked in a lab for a year, and while I was applying to grad school, and then it took me. So I'll get my degree at the end of June of this year. So it'll be like 9 years from when I started to when I ended.
Wow.
But which is longer than average, and I don't recommend that most people take that long. It should be closer to 5 to 6, but. A couple reasons for that. One is I changed labs partway through because I wanted to shift my research focus. And then I also had the last project of my PhD was just like kind of a experimentally challenging project. I haven't told you what my PhD was.
Yeah.
So maybe I should switch into that. But I guess to finish, then we had COVID, and that kind of slowed things down a little bit too.
Yeah.
But yeah, my PhD was in the department of mechanical engineering. But the work that I did was more kind of closer to biology, really at that interface between mechanics and biology.
Yeah.
So I was looking at questions of what's the role of mechanical forces in driving animal morphogenesis. Morphogenesis is one of these fancy words that essentially means the origin of form, the origin of shape, emergence of shape in
morphogenesis.
animals.
Yeah.
Morph, shape, genesis, beginning.
Yeah.
Boom.
So it's we were looking at that question of like, how do animals like get the shapes that they end up having? Because there were these really old ideas of like pre-formationism, the idea that even at the very beginning of like when the egg is fertilized, there's like a little person sitting inside that just kind of like grows up, but that's actually not the case.
It's not like those little things where you put water on them. And
Yeah. That was kind of like some of the early ideas because it's like, how we didn't know,
We had never been
But then
in
they
there.
start getting microscopes and you look at it and you're like, whoa, there's like all these weird kind of changes that are happening to this embryo over time. So we learned that there's it's a process, if you will, of form emerging through a kind of epigenesis, meaning like things are developing and interacting with one another on top of one another in a series of steps. Okay, so what my PhD was looking at was what is the role of mechanics in that process. Now, if you look at under a microscope and you record like a movie showing a fly developing or a zebrafish developing and many of the model organisms that are studied, you'll see that you have these large-scale movements of cells and tissues. And whenever you have a material that's actively being remodeled and shaped, just like if I gave you a piece of clay and asked you to shape it into a fish, you recognize that in order for the clay to move and be remodeled, you need forces to be present. So that's like the first reason why forces are important for understanding development. But the second part is we've learned more and more that the genetic aspects of development and the mechanical aspects of development are actually connected. And cells are responding to like an interplay of genetic and mechanical cues. And you can think of this kind of like, it's like if you're driving in your car and you have the GPS on, you're going to look at the GPS to figure out where to go, but you're also going to be looking at the road.
Yeah.
And you're also going to be like feeling, if you hit a bump or all these things. So you're integrating like a myriad of all these different cues. And so cells do the same thing. All this to say, to get like a really complete and holistic understanding of these really complex morphogenetic processes. Sorry if I'm using too much jargon, but sometimes
It's all
fun
good.
to-
Yeah. You earned it, certainly.
But yeah, but to understand like how animals are being shaped in a really complete way, we need not just studies of genetics, but also studies of what are the forces being generated. So my PhD, in a large part, was studying and making the first measurements of how forces, what forces are being generated inside of like developing 3D tissues, and then also developing computational software that allow us to do that kind of measurements.
Wow.
Using this novel technology that my advisor developed of oil droplet force sensors. So,
Wow, that is
That's the short
so
of it.
epic.
Yeah. My big question is, so like the Dunning-Kruger effect is like this thing that says that like amateurs think they know a lot, and then like people with intermediate knowledge of stuff are aware of how much they don't know, and then experts feel like experts. So you have like both ends of the spectrum thinking they're experts. Do you feel like an expert, or do you feel like, are you overwhelmed by how much there is you don't know?
Well, I think one of the things about working in an interdisciplinary field is that you're very aware of all the things you are not an expert in.
Yeah.
But there are certain things that I definitely do feel an expert in. But like when we get more into some of the biology and like some of the more like traditional ways that a biologist will take and look at a problem and the tools that they'll use, like I'm familiar with it, but it's like easier for me to get lost. It's easier for me to get lost in a lecture where you start talking about like the sonic hedgehog signaling pathways and things like that. And but yeah, things that I feel like very grounded in and expert in is when it's more on the mechanics side of things or on the physics side of things. 'Cause my undergrad was in physics.
Yeah.
And particularly when we're using this tool that our lab developed of micro droplet force sensors. You know, if anyone asks me like how that works, you know, like I'm like, yeah, I understand this technology from the first principles and can, you know, walk you through it on a blackboard and understand all the different parts that we're bringing together, whether it's the ferromagnetic nanoparticles that we're integrating or the LabVIEW software that we're using to control this magnetic actuator stage. That, you know, those are the things you feel comfortable in. But you always got to understand that there are things you don't know, and understand that that's not evidence of like, oh, I'm not good enough because I don't know that. It's like I haven't learned that yet.
Yeah.
But like I can learn that, and if I need to know that, let me know. I'll learn that, and then we can talk about it. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
What were you saying?
Where did you take your classes for your doctorate? What college did you?
Yeah. For my doctorate, I was at UC Santa Barbara.
Oh, nice.
So
Okay,
just
cool.
just up the 101.
They have a very renowned physics program and department, right?
Yeah. No, they have a really solid physics department. I didn't do my
Undergrad.
degree or undergrad at UCSB.
Okay.
Or no, sorry. I did my PhD at UCSB in mechanical engineering, not in physics.
Yeah.
And I did my physics degree at Brown University.
Oh wow.
Oh, nice.
So on the other side of the coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your favorite class in high school? Like, were you always very interested in physics and science?
Well, one of the classes that I never took in high school that I wish I had was AP Physics, ironically.
Oh yeah.
That's
yeah.
crazy.
And I also never took a biology class in high school.
That's wild.
Yeah, I think I made up for it. That's probably why it took me 9 years.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of the classes that I really loved were choir.
Nice.
I was part of the a cappella choir and the madrigal choir in high school, and that was
Nice.
a lot of fun. I also really enjoyed my AP chemistry class.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was a lot of fun. I remember I had to do. Well, I wanted to take AP chemistry and madrigal choir, but they were offered the same
Period. Yeah.
so I had to do both. So I would sometimes go to rehearsal and sometimes go to lecture and go to labs. And it worked out. It would have been great if I could have actually done
Yeah.
both.
Done both, yeah.
Yeah. I took honors. I didn't do AP chemistry, but I liked honors chemistry.
Yeah, same. I loved honors. I really liked that class.
I feel because I'm sort of deciding what to major in, and I really like science, but for some reason I have political science in my head. But maybe I'm not going to do that. But I feel like that makes science sound very compelling and interesting.
It's so cool because I don't know what I want to do in college, major wise. I'm not really that interested in anything, but it's so cool that you found something you really like, and because I feel like for most people school's kind of a burden. but like now you're like learning things that like you fully have chosen, and it's just like a total like it's like a bonus,
Yeah.
which is like so epic. I don't know.
Yeah, no, a PhD is very different than other parts of your education. And some people maybe who do really well in a in like a more structured educational program where you're just learning stuff out of a book, you know, once you get to do a PhD, you realize, oh, this is a very different thing, and you need to learn new skills in order to be successful at it. And some people who maybe never did that well in like, you know, in their courses, then they start doing research and they're like, oh, this is something that like clicks and this is something that makes sense. And so it's, it's very different. It's very different. It's much more like you learn what you need to do, what you need to learn in order to solve the problems that you need to solve, which is much more relevant to what you're doing in the real world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are all PhDs kind of becoming more niche of like what they're studying just because like more things?
A PhD, sorry to interrupt.
It's okay.
PhDs are always niche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as like a general PhD.
Mm-hmm.
You have to write a thesis that is on a specific topic, that is original research. I'm not aware. I mean, maybe there is like some PhDs that are lit reviews, but I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, you'll have a chapter in your thesis that gives an overview of the field, but if you need to have some original contribution.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How long is the thesis?
Oh, that varies from discipline to discipline. And, you know, by the time that you're writing the thesis, you're never really concerned about meeting that page number.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you've done enough. I think in the sciences, it's on the order of, you know, 100 to 200 pages.
Wow.
Mine was closer to 100. It was pretty dense. Like, we did a lot, but you know, you kind of, well, in my case, my thesis consisted of an introductory chapter that I wrote for the thesis, and then 3 chapters based on original research that were themselves published in journals or to be published in academic journals, and then a conclusions chapter at the end. So if you think, okay, you got 5 chapters there, each of them is about 20 pages, and it's 20 pages double spaced, and you got figures. You know, you kind of, if you break it down like that, it can feel less crazy.
Yeah.
Is that all like available to the public now? Could someone go like?
I haven't submitted my thesis yet, like formally, but when I do, yes, it will.
Yeah,
be.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You sent me the recording of you defending it, and I wanted to watch it, but I forgot to notify you about this. But when I clicked on it, there was some like permissions.
Oh yeah, I think you have to request permission, and then I'll like.
Yeah. Okay. I should have just done that. Yeah.
Well, actually, if you have you have Twitter, I'm sure, on your phone.
Yeah.
There's a Twitter thread that we put out, my advisor put out, that gives like a quick summary of my whole, not my whole defense, but of this most recent project. It's got some cool videos on there.
Nice.
That's so cool.
Yeah. If you actually want to take a look at that, I mean, I don't know how this works. Do we like keep talking? But if you wanted to take a break to look at that, or we can do something at the end.
Yeah.
I'll
Maybe
anyway,
we could.
That's an option.
You could pull up some videos, and at some point we could watch them.
Yeah, I can pull them up here and we can actually play them.
Should we start?
Should we do a question or two?
Yeah, why don't you?
How long have we been going?
We've been going for. Well, we started recording a little before we started.
20 minutes?
So we've probably been going 20 minutes. Yeah.
And okay, this is by far the most questions we've ever had
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
one podcast, and I think it
Yeah.
blew away the
Yeah,
competition.
easily.
Let's start. This is just the first one from Liam Keithley. Does Pluto deserve to be a part of the solar system?
Oh well, it's definitely a part of the solar system.
Right.
Oh, but like, is
I
it
think he
considered
may-
a planet?
he means
Should
a
it be
planet.
considered a
Well,
planet?
I mean, maybe this is important. This is important because the solar system is more than just a set of planets. I mean, planet comes from the Greek meaning wanderer, because if you look at
That's so cool, by the way, that Greek, like ancient Greek people, like assign the words to like scientific concepts that are like so conceptual or like philosophical like that.
Yeah,
Like
okay.
Wanderer is
yeah,
planet.
yeah. Well, and why do you think it's called? Why do you think we took that word wanderer to describe planets?
I guess they sort of
They're
They move
moving.
around in the sky.
Yeah, well,
Wander
they move
around
around in
space.
the sky relative to the stars,
Yeah.
which are appear fixed.
Oh, right.
And then the Earth kind of rotates around on its axis. I
Yeah.
mean, the Greeks didn't know that the Earth was rotating, but you see these stars kind of rotating almost like they're in this like set in like a crystalline sphere, and then you have some objects that seem to move relative to those. They
Yeah.
wander around.
Yeah.
So those are the planets. And then later, people worked out, notably like Kepler, Galileo. Ooh, my astronomy history isn't like super sharp, but anyway, like some of those guys figured out that these planets are orbiting in ellipses, and then later, much later, people. Scientists got together and they're like, well, lots of things actually orbit. You also have comets that have these big long orbits that involve the sun. You have things called centaurs, which like I forget what they are, but they're also these other objects that are somehow like caught in our influenced by the sun's gravity and like come in this way.
yeah.
So they're like, and then you have moons, and then you have asteroids. So then you come up with an object like Pluto, which is really small compared to a lot of the other planets. It's super far out and has this kind of crazy orbit. And its orbit isn't as regular as the other planets. So ironically, because Pluto, in a sense, wanders too much from what is the kind of canonical way that a planet should behave,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're like, it's not a planet. But it's still very much a part of our solar system.
Yeah.
So it is part of the solar system, and we should give more awareness to trans-Neptunian objects, such as Pluto.
Yeah.
and
Give them a
centaurs.
platform.
Yeah.
America.
Normalized trans-Neptunian object.
Let them speak their
100%. There's a lot of stuff in the solar system, not
Yeah.
just the big
Yeah.
bright things you can see
Yeah.
on your telescope.
That is so. I haven't thought about the solar system in a while, but like literally the fact that there's like this big string of planets that
Yeah.
rotate around the sun all the time.
I might do astrophysics.
Yeah. I mean,
I find it like political stuff is cool, but I like science.
there's so much bigger fish
Yeah.
to fry.
Yeah.
I've-
It's like, it's just so cool.
Whenever you do a unit like that in any science class, it makes you feel so small. like,
Yeah.
whenever you do
Crazy.
it.
Well, like what I freaking loved in chemistry was like learning about like all the really small particles and like how I just thought it was super cool to like learn how stuff interacts. Like it's like really small.
Yeah.
Like that makes up
And
everything.
then that's everything.
That's just everything. It's so cool. Yeah.
What was it? Oh, I've always wondered about the solar system. Is it kind of weird that everything's like on the same plane? Like we're kind of in like two dimensions.
Yeah.
Like, why
that is-
doesn't it look like one of those models of the
like-
hydrogen
like-
atom?
yeah.
atom?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, bumped the mic. Yeah. So why is that? There's some physics explanation, and
That is weird. That is very weird.
it seems kind of weird. I think like the short explanation is like when the solar system formed, it was spinning more. It was rotating more around one axis than another, and maybe it started out more like a sphere of dust. I mean, it wasn't exactly that, but let's say it was.
Yeah.
Something like this. Like you have kind of like a sphere of dust that has some spin to it, like a basketball spinning on a finger. Over time, gravity is going to collapse that, but gravity isn't going to get rid of that original spin, and that's how Yeah, and that's how it
so
ends
was
up
all
at a plane.
spinning in one way, and then it came together. And
Yeah.
Okay, that makes
That
sense. Yeah.
keeps the same keeps the same axis.
But then if you have other stuff that comes in and collides, then that can perturb.
That can
things, but-
mess some stuff up.
Yeah. Okay, I see. I have a question that is not from the audience, but from something we were not us, but our family was discussing. And there's a little anecdote to go along with it. So I was in the shower. I like to listen to music in the shower. I was listening to this one song, humming along to it in the shower. And I was, everything was at a constant volume, but then I did one note, and it was way louder and more like resonant than the others. And my dad had explained the concept of resonant frequency to me before, but I don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
So if we were trying to think why would that happen? So basically I'm asking what is resonant frequency and why does that happen?
Sure. That's a great concept. There's a couple different ways to come at it, but what resonance is the phenomenon where an object has a natural harmonic, a natural frequency at which it wants to vibrate or oscillate or make noise. Mm-hmm. You see this in musical instruments.
Yeah, like a string.
Like a string, exactly. Yeah. So if you take a string and you run a bow on it, or you pluck it with your finger, depending on the tension in the string and the length of the string, you're going to get a characteristic note that emerges. It's actually a set of different frequencies, but it's dominated by your fundamental harmonic.
Yeah,
and then you have overtones on top of that. Mm-hmm. But you can understand what frequencies those are based on the length of the string and the tension of the string. Mm-hmm. So you can change the pitch of the note that you play on a violin by moving your fingers up and down the what's that called, the bridge, or is it the neck?
I think it's the neck.
The neck, yeah. Up and down the neck of the violin. So you have the same thing that is happening in a wind instrument. Think like a trumpet. A trumpet's a little more complicated because you have the valves, but with a trumpet, or maybe a better example is a trombone, easier to imagine. What you're doing is you're changing the length of that by sliding that big slide. What's it called? Yeah. Anyway, you slide the bit of the tube out, and the pitch drops, and you bring it in, and the pitch goes up because you're changing the overall length of that trumpet. Using horn. Maybe that's the general term, right?
Yeah.
You're changing the length of the air in that column, right? Okay, so now let's all picture Ashton in the shower. He's singing. He's singing along to something.
George has a freaking look of disgust on its face.
It's a little
right, well, okay, this is an optional. Optional.
You don't have to.
I already did. It's much too late.
Okay, so depending on the size of the shower, it's similar to the size of the length of the string. In this analogy, it's analogous to the length of the string on the violin or the length of the column of air in the horn, because there's a certain resonant frequency where you can produce waves, like sound waves that physically fit perfectly inside the shower stall. And because you have these nice ceramic tiles probably on the shower, or maybe it's plastic, I don't know, but you have these hard surfaces that can reflect those sound waves. You can just you can pack a bunch of energy in those waves, and you can increase the amplitude a large amount because you're just pumping in that perfect resonant frequency.
Wow. They fit so nicely.
Yeah, it's literally geometry. And you can use this effect to do all kinds of cool things. All right, so you can build a device that will physically like filter out certain sound waves just based on the geometry. Actually, I think this is a great example right here. Like, why do we have a screen between my mouth and the mic?
Soften the P's and B's.
Soften the P's and B's.
George.
So the P's
I've
and
got
the
it.
B's
All right.
are really high frequency sound waves, or they're composed of many sound waves, including these really high frequency ones.
Yeah.
So those high frequency ones somehow don't make their way through this screen because of how they're physically interacting with the screen here. Now I don't want to get myself into too much trouble because I don't understand like all of the details of how these things are designed. But yeah, essentially this is this screen. What was it called? What's the technical
It's a
term?
pop filter.
Pop filter.
Pop filter.
Yeah.
So the pop filter is a filter, filters out the pops and allows certain frequencies to pass through.
It's like tinted sunglasses, kind of.
Yeah. Like sunglasses are another way that you filter out waves, but not sound waves, but light waves.
Yeah.
But light, light is also a wave, right? And some of the waves are really small, like the visible waves, but some of the waves are big, like macroscopically so, like microwaves.
Yeah.
So you can actually build wave guides that are shaped, in such a way that it'll only filter out and allow certain frequencies of microwaves to go through. And you can actually like machine these out of aluminum, and it's not exactly the same way that you would machine like a trumpet, but it's not totally different either because the size of the waves are comparable.
Yeah. Wait, so light waves have resonant frequency also? And
Yeah.
what would that look like if you like? I don't even really know how to ask the question because I don't really totally get it. But like, if you shine a light of a certain frequency into a certain like size thing, something happens, or
So a great example of resonance with light is radio.
okay.
So with a radio, you have an antenna, say that comes out, and that antenna is hooked up to some circuit in such a way that you have a resonant, that it'll have a resonant frequency. So only a certain color of light is speaking very generally, but really what I mean is a certain frequency of radio station
Yeah.
will excite currents in that network.
Oh, so
So you can literally turn a dial, like literally you turn a dial, and that changes some literally a geometrical aspect of your circuit, which changes the electrical properties in a certain way, so that now, just like Ashton singing in the shower, let's all picture that optionally again.
You look nice. You look good.
if you want,
If you want. So in the same way, you've created this kind of resonant space in your circuit for radio waves, for a specific frequency of radio waves to excite the currents, and then you take those currents and you run them through a speaker, and now you can reconstruct sound that was recorded somewhere else.
that's so cool.
That's crazy.
Wow, that's freaking.
So going
that's
back
so
to the
cool.
shower example, does it has something to do with, I guess, is it the wavelength of the light fitting nicely into the
Or the
dimensions
sound.
of the
Sound.
of the sound, the wavelength of the sound wave
Yeah.
fitting nicely in the dimensions of the shower?
Yeah, so we can probably estimate what the resonant frequency would be. You would need to know what's the speed of sound in air. I actually I don't know. I'm not a good engineer.
Like
I
a
don't know
billion
this.
miles per hour.
It's not that.
big, maybe.
I feel like it's around 300 miles an hour, but I'm probably
Yeah.
making that up. It's probably probably faster.
I was thinking about that at baseball the other day because we were taking batting practice, and I was thinking, like, is there a noticeable delay between, because I was standing in the outfield, so probably like 250 feet away from the hitter.
Yeah.
Is there a noticeable delay between when I see the ball being hit and the noise?
Oh,
that I'm
100%.
hearing?
You're
Yeah.
going to see it, even at that distance, you're going to see it, and then you're going to hear it.
Yeah. And I was trying to, like, can I see it? Because
Could you
Did it?
perceive the difference?
I think you can a little bit because, and I was thinking,
Yeah,
like,
what is it in feet per second? So, so that's a great example. Like, so it's probably a fraction of a second. So it's
Yeah.
probably, is it like 1,000 feet per second?
1100, yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh,
See,
wow.
that's science.
So-
you did an experiment. You're like, I observed a delay.
Yeah.
You gave us a length,
Yeah,
250,
about 250 feet.
250 feet.
Yeah.
So like, okay, so there's a difference of about 250 feet, and you perceived it. So it's probably on the order of a quarter of a second.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
then it's like, that's about 1,000 feet per second.
That's so
and we're
cool.
on the ballpark.
Yeah.
Nice.
In a ballpark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's crazy that like
Literally.
there are things that can go faster than that. Like I think it was the SR-17 that broke.
Some plane.
Yeah, it was like how it went from California to Washington D.C. in like 52 minutes.
Oh my god.
It went like
Jeez.
it went like
My word.
like 2.5 times or 3.5 times.
That's so insane for
Yeah.
an actual plane to go faster than sound.
'Cause
Well,
the-
you
Yeah.
guys remember the Concorde or no?
Not
I remember
personally, but
the Alamo. I remember the Alamo.
Okay.
nice.
Don't give me that.
The Concorde, it exploded or something on the runway, right? Or
I think
I think that was
exploded
the
at some
The
point.
Challenger, maybe.
Well, let's.
Yeah, I don't know.
I actually don't know my history of the Concorde. I think there was one accident that kind of doomed it.
Yeah.
But it was also super expensive because they had to. Because it was this like luxury vehicle, and like people would buy. People who are flying on it are paying a lot. You can't
Yeah.
ever have. You can't ever like have a flight booked on the Concorde and then like not be able to actually get where you're going because you're paying like, I don't know, $10,000.
Yeah.
Was it like a really fast? Is that like some mega fast plane?
Oh yeah, it was one of the first passenger planes that, and I think the only passenger plane that was doing supersonic
Oh,
flights
okay, yeah.
from like across the Atlantic. But one of the problems was they always had to have like 2 Concordes like ready to go in case like you had maintenance issues with one of them. So it was like twice as expensive. And then because of the sonic booms, you couldn't get up to supersonic speeds until you were like a certain distance away from like a community. So
Yeah.
it was super fast. It was you should look up the times because it's kind of nuts to think about like going from New York and then landing in London, and I think it was like under 3 hours. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. If you have a plane like that that's going like significantly faster than the speed of light or than the speed of sound, if you like as the plane's going, it's getting more and more ahead of where the sound of it is.
Yeah.
Right. So at a certain point, is the sound like
Way back.
way behind the plane? Like you just look up and you hear something, and it's actually like very far away.
Well, even just when a plane is flying that's going subsonic,
Yeah.
if you look at it, you'll hear the engines at a different position than you see the plane.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that that definitely happens. From like a perception, the perception of where the plane looks and where the plane sounds are going to be different even for a normal plane because you're
Yeah.
so far away.
Right.
The difference in the speed.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But when you think of a plane that's traveling supersonic, what's happening is it's generating noise where it is,
Yeah.
but the noise is takes a while to travel. But the noise is going to like take some time to travel. So the noise, the plane, you're basically going to see the plane if it's coming towards you before you can hear it.
Yeah.
But because it's like generating noise as it's going so fast, that's kind of where those sonic booms come from.
yeah.
It's not a great explanation. I'm sure there's like someone can give a better explanation than that.
None
But
of
yeah,
us.
you'll have
Yeah, not anyone we know.
But yeah, but if you think about that moment when when you break the sound barrier, that's when there's that loud boom, because it's like you're generating noise at like all these different places that then arrive to the ear of the listener at the same time. So instead of just like having like one plane at one place, it's almost like you have a bunch of different planes at the same time.
Oh wow.
I think that's how
That
I
makes
think
sense
about
to
it.
me.
Yeah, they're like all.
So there's just one sort of boom when you break the speed of sound, and then does it continue happening?
But then the sound
I
is
think
just
it's
delayed
just-
that you hear the plane.
Right. So it seems like that would just be like 1-to-1, like you.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a sonic boom at every place where it goes over, but actually I don't know. I'm not sure.
Just keep going, like slightly under, slightly over, just making.
Yeah.
Yeah. George, why don't you pick out the next good
Let's
question?
get a good one. Oliver, let's see if you want to own up to this one live on the air. Cream cheese ? Feel good about that question?
Well, let's see.
It was a gag question.
So is the question cream cheese?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think cream cheese is good and on a bagel.
Yeah.
It has its place.
So
Yeah,
that's a yes.
Oliver.
That's a yes.
Yeah.
Okay, OT.
Good
Okay.
question.
No.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, this is.
That's biased. That's
you
biased.
cannot. Yeah, you
I'm
cannot
applauding myself.
give that to yourself on a question like
I'm
that.
applauding the answer.
Okay. Yeah, George. Give us a-
Oh, I'm trying to find.
oh my!
Let's say.
Finished it.
Well, this is kind of a fun one from Ivan Pelly. Could you beat Neil deGrasse Tyson in an arm wrestle?
Probably not. I think he has pretty big arms, but maybe I'm biasing that based on the his representation of the Superman comics.
Oh.
Or I think they put a little more muscle on him. trimmed him down.
I think
Was
so.
he in the Superman comics?
He was, yeah. There was this
Weird.
one. There's one comic where I think Superman needs Neil deGrasse Tyson's help to get coordinate all the different observatories on the planet to act as like a super telescope. And then because there's like a wormhole, they can look back in time and he can like see Krypton blowing up. And I think it's kind of traumatic for Superman.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I don't know if Neil deGrasse deserved that, but I don't know.
He didn't deserve to be in Superman?
Yeah, I don't know if he earned it.
I don't even know what you mean by that.
I think I would beat Neil deGrasse Tyson in a discussion of biology, though. I think
Yeah.
he sometimes
So that's
goes a
pretty
little
good.
out of
Yeah.
his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
He probably does.
What do you think of him? Because you're someone who kind of has a for a
You're
lot
on
of
his
people they
level.
just hear what he says and like, oh, that's probably true, but you can actually like,
Fact check.
yeah. Is he good or bad?
Well, I think that Neil deGrasse Tyson's doing. I think anyone doing science communication is doing a really important
Yeah.
service to society, and that's something I do really appreciate. I don't actually I don't think I follow him on Twitter or follow like his podcast, but definitely like in various times in my science education, just like education in general, like I remember he would come on to Radiolab and he'd provide really great story content there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I ton of respect for Neil deGrasse.
Yeah.
All right,
And
cool.
Cosmos is always great.
Yeah, that is true. That his series about like the space,
Cosmos,
about the
yeah.
cosmos. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was Carl Sagan did the original.
Yeah.
And Carl Sagan was Neil deGrasse Tyson's mentor.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he was his PhD advisor or mentor, but at some point they had a relationship and worked together. And so it's really cool then to see Neil deGrasse Tyson taking over as
Kind of take the mantle.
as the steering that
That's so cool.
show.
What I think is so cool about Doctor, having the title Doctor, is like in England you can get knighted and get Sir.
Yeah.
That's not really an option here, but like Doctor's like as good as you're gonna get, and it's close.
It's I mean, I think that there are more doctors than there are knights.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's quite
Yeah,
quite
but
the
it's pretty.
same.
It's pretty. I think it's pretty.
I think it's significant.
Yeah.
I think it's.
They're both
cool.
definitely super significant. Yeah.
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 I think it's in Finland. If you get a doctorate, they give you a sword.
Oh my god.
That's so good.
I know.
Oh, my
It's one of those
word.
things where it's like I didn't find out until after I started my PhD.
Oh yeah.
God,
Should have done.
that is so good.
I think it's Finland. It's probably like some other Scandinavian country, and they're going to be like, no, it's Denmark.
Yeah, all our listeners.
They're gonna be outraged.
But that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should just get a sword commissioned.
Well, I know some people who have. They were like, their partners will get them a sword. They're like, even though
So
yeah.
cool. Oh my gosh.
That might be one of the coolest things ever. Like, I don't know. That's so good.
Yeah. Okay, George.
Question.
My dad asked a bunch. And
Yeah,
some of them were
okay.
pretty good.
They were
Was it
pretty
cream
good ones.
cheese
Yeah.
and bagel?
Yeah.
Let's see. Will we ever have Star Trek type tech like a transporter or replicator? That's from Ivan. That's from Ivan Pele also.
I mean, my short answer is no.
God.
Well, all right. So
That's a huge letdown.
So like teleportation, like the transporter seems. No, I don't think we're gonna have something like that.
yeah.
It's a big letdown.
The replicator is kind of like, sounds like it's the same technology as the transporter. It's like you want like a bagel and cream cheese, and it'll just
Make
Give
another
you one.
it'll just like assemble it from
Yeah.
from base elements. I don't think we're gonna have that. But I think there's something exciting about that technology that's worth like thinking about, and then we can think, okay, what are the things that we like about that technology, and what could we actually
What
do?
could we really
Yeah.
do?
So, I mean, with the transporter, the idea of being able to instantly or like at the speed of light, like move from one location to another. We can't do that, but we can do that like virtually with things like telepresence. And we've been all doing that with Zoom, and we realize it's really not the same thing.
Yeah.
But you could imagine like integrating systems with haptic feedback and like a heads-up display, like a Oculus Rift type thing, such that you could be interacting with someone else live in a virtual environment. Maybe like the holodeck is maybe.
They're like
maybe a
virtual
better-
reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Virtual
So-
reality, but you're feeling it also.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, you guys know the term haptics,
Is that like
Yeah.
when you get actual like physical
like tactile feedback.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
like on your phone when you.
press a button and it gives you a little buzz or
Yep.
whatever?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
you
it's-
could imagine like designing gloves that
Yeah.
that then that can like play back sensations. And yeah, I mean, there's actually a professor at UCSB who's studying this, who's looking at trying to record. Like you wear some sensor on your hand, and then you interact with some material, and it'll record that interaction in the same way that you record like a sound. And then you can play that back and hear a sound, right? But
Yeah.
what if you could play it back and then
feel.
and
Yeah.
recreate that sensation?
'Cause-
Oh wow. Would that be? Wait, does it like interface with your brain, or it's like a physical like thing on your hand that recreates it?
So this would be a physical thing on your hand. But what you're saying is, okay, yeah, what if we just like short that and we go straight to stimulating the relevant neurons? And that's something else that we might be able to do in some way in the future.
That's crazy.
But yeah, I mean, doing computer brain interfaces, it's still early days, and I'm honestly like not sure how much we're gonna be able to kind of do the kind of invasive, just putting chips in people's brains in the future. Because you kind of only get one brain, and like you know that goes wrong. It's
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
really
High
want to
stakes.
play
Yeah.
fast and loose with your brain.
Yeah. Okay. I want to ask you about like gene editing of like an embryo,
Sure.
because we talked about this in biology, my AP biology class that I took last year, and I sort of thought like that sounds great. Like we can like cure people of ailments or something before they even happen. But everybody else in my class took issue with it, and they said it was like, it's too risky. It's such a slippery slope. They threw in the term designer babies a lot. So what do you think of that? I think it's totally cool. You know, like you could make a paraplegic person walk, never have to go through their, you know, you can cure them of ailments and stuff. Do you see that as like too dangerous or just totally cool?
Well, okay, so I mean, you're presenting this
swag money.
this dichotomy, right?
Yeah.
It's either like
You got two
it's
options
either
here.
too dangerous or it's like super cool.
Okay, yeah.
And let's take a step back and look at like what gene editing is. I mean, literally, it could be anything from, if we like take a big step back, it can be anything from like selective breeding of canines to produce different breeds of dogs, or what we've done with agriculture, where we're selecting for certain genes by selecting the traits of plants that we want to eat. And that has consequences on the environment. It has consequences to do those kind of interventions. Is that a?
It's a mail. They're kind of it's a mail. They're kind of the bane of our
Mailman, okay.
podcast.
Yeah.
I didn't get mailman out either time.
I was like, is that a sound effect? I was like, that's a weird reaction.
That's
to.
actually that's the same. Okay,
mailman.
funny
made a
that
guest appearance
we
on
bring
our
that
podcast.
up because
Is that the same one?
on another podcast that we were recording on a Sunday,
Yeah.
that exact mailman came and like basically did the same thing, just dropped off some mail. There was a
Yeah.
loud noise. We commented on it, and OT was like, "Oh, it's Sunday. I didn't know the mailman, delivered mail on Sundays." And then the mailman, that guy said like, "What did he say, George? Like, don't remind us mailmen.
Yeah,
we're working
something like
on
that.
Sundays."
And then you were the only one that heard.
I was the only one who heard what he said, but I just didn't say anything, and then they got all like, "Oh, you should have said something." And I was like, "Whatever."
Yeah, it's a little tangent, but all
Okay,
right.
so gene
Gene
editing.
editing.
Yeah.
So all right, so gene editing I think is a powerful tool, and we should use it definitely in certain cases where it can provide more good than harm. I mean, but that decision, making those decisions about when do the benefits outweigh the risk, I think really need to be considered on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
I don't think you can say, okay, all gene editing is good or all gene editing is bad.
Yeah.
In certain cases where if you're doing like a highly risky procedure that could have consequences on a child, like a child's life, that to me seems very unethical. If you're doing like some experimental procedure, like this happened in China in the last couple of years,
Yeah.
where they edited they added a gene that gave the children resistance to HIV. And very few people would say that having that trait is bad, but it was because it's an experimental procedure. We don't know what kind of risk for other kinds of genetic damage could have been done to those embryos, which would ultimately become human beings. So that's where that's a case where it's a little trickier.
Yeah, like getting it started where we don't really know the full
Yeah.
effects is like that's where it can go.
Yeah, I think it was in
wrong.
the context of like cancer and how you can like be genetically higher risk for cancer than other people. And we were talking about like,
Yeah, but if you
could cure
can do a genetic modification through some procedure, whether it's CRISPR-Cas9 or some other kind of technology,
Yeah.
and you can demonstrate that genetic modification has less risks than
the risk of cancer.
Than the risk of cancer, then you can start to be like, oh, maybe this is the ethical thing to do.
yeah.
But where it gets really really problematic is when you start thinking about like eugenics, where we're and this has a history in the United States and other countries where people are selecting for traits that are not it's not that they're like selecting for things like resistance to cancer, but
like blonde hair,
blonde hair, or even like height, you know, and that's where it's like, okay, like I don't think that that being short is like is a bad thing. That
feels like cheating. Feels like cheating almost.
That's what makes us tall folk feel so good about ourselves. There's short.
We need those little guys.
I need them.
No.
I think
that gets to like that's kind of pushing it.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely pushing it. I was just, they brought that's sort of the designer babies thing. I'm just saying maybe we don't do that part. Maybe just keep it cancer focused at first.
Well, I think it's a conversation we need to have.
Yeah, definitely,
and continue to have, because you don't want to get to a point where you're like, okay, because genetic modification has the potential to cure cancer, then all genetic modification should be fine. It's like, no, let's have conversations. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
I mean, like so many technologies, you need to think, what are the social consequences, and they're hard conversations.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Like you have to have those hard conversations.
It's just like, it seems so compelling that you could just cure people of cancer before it ever happened. Like save someone of the like insane level of like suffering that is getting sick with cancer, and then like all their family members, and just like
and I think as we're having this conversation, and we talk about what are can we use a technology like genetic modification to address X, Y, or Z disease or what have you. We need to think about the other conversations that we could be having as well. Like, what are ways that we could support people who are currently living with whether it's disabilities or chronic illnesses. It's so important to think about the ways that we can make society through design, like work better for everyone, and all right, so like a polio vaccine, great technological development, and 100% here for that, and now we've essentially eradicated polio. I think we've eradicated it in the U.S. and I don't know what the status is in the developing world, but it's very, very close to being gone. At the same time, we have had, for the people who got polio and lost, say, mobility in their limbs. We need to be building a society that allows people to be able to access it through the use of a wheelchair. So you need to then build the curb cuts in the city and in the infrastructure. And so as we're having this conversation about like what are the benefits of this like new technology and thinking about who it could help, we need to also think, okay, who are the people who we could help now, who are living in a society that because honestly, like we live in what's called an ableist society, meaning like we privilege the experiences and we evaluate the success of our infrastructure based on how quote unquote able-bodied people interact with it. And that's everything from food allergies to physical mobility, etc. Anyway, I'm just saying, like, we can use the tools of engineering and science to solve all these problems, but it's really important to be socially oriented as much as possible.
I was just gonna say, my mom is a physical therapist, and she, in grad school, I think she worked on like getting more like ramps and stuff for people in wheelchairs. So I don't know. That just made me think of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so much work that we've done as a society in the last, over the last generations. So, yeah, I think we should be encouraged that we can do better.
Yeah.
All for doing better.
Definitely. All right, George.
Ben Partey's question.
Oh yeah. Okay. Where does it start? It starts.
I think I can. I sort of.
Oh, okay. Why does the debris orbiting Earth not ever enter the atmosphere and land on the surface of the Earth? Doesn't gravity even overcome the centripetal force and pull the objects in?
So I reject the question because objects do fall down to Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boom, Ben.
Okay, Ben.
But I mean, so maybe there's a misperception there that we don't actually have asteroids, or not like full asteroids, but well, yeah, actually sometimes you'll have a large asteroid
Yeah.
that becomes a meteor and reshapes the whole planet's ecosystem, as happened with at the end of that's what wiped out the dinosaurs, right?
Yep. Yeah.
That totally happens. But why don't we have it happening as much as, say, other places? Like if you look at the moon,
Yeah.
that's
It's got
just
all
like
kinds of
covered
craters.
in craters. But you look at Earth and it's like, oh, it doesn't look the same. Like there's definitely some craters. So why is there that difference? There's a couple reasons. One, the Earth is geologically active, right? We have a hot core, and that causes movements of material from inside the planet upwards. You have the tectonic plates shifting around, so you don't leave like a crater
You kind
will
of fill,
over.
you fill them in, kind of a thing, or move them.
Yeah, more or less. Like they don't last forever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also have life on this planet, so if you have like trees and stuff that grow up, and then animals, like you have erosion, you have those. We have a weather systems that erode things, and we have a much more dynamic surface. So you're not going to leave a history of craters in that way. We also have a magnetic field. I'm not sure how much of an effect that plays on like deflecting asteroids. Probably not that big a one. And then we also have the moon itself, which kind of acts as a
Sucks some
shield
things
to a
in.
certain
Oh,
amount.
nice.
A little meat shield, my guy.
Yeah.
Is that unethical? Sacrificing the moon.
Having a moon. Having a moon.
Having a moon.
Yes.
Yay or nay?
Cancel having a moon? Maybe cancel the Earth for
Having a moon.
having a moon.
No, I just threw out like all those things that matter. I don't know what the relative, like how important the moon is. Like if we didn't
Yeah.
have a moon, how many more
Would we be
meteorite impacts would we have per year? I don't know the answer to that question.
The moon
That's
is
an
like
interesting-
that the mathematician's lackey in Good Will Hunting.
Who like?
Oh.
In what way?
He just follows the Earth around and friggin' takes all the crap.
Get his-
Oh
It's
yeah,
coffee.
yeah, exactly. What were we talking about? The moon.
We asked it why. You said
Why-
why doesn't the
Oh,
Earth's
yeah,
gravity
yeah.
pull stuff
Yeah,
to its surface?
yeah.
The answer is it does.
It does. It does.
And you can go dig up meteorites, and you can buy meteorites on
Yeah.
eBay. Which is
Oh.
fun.
I guess Gannon's
There's like
astronomy
a-
program is shoddy.
Yeah. Ben, the guy who asked the question, goes to Gannon in
University.
Pennsylvania, Gannon University in Pennsylvania. But have you guys actually ever seen a shooting star?
Yeah.
I have.
They look so cool. It looks like nothing that you see. It looks like a cartoon or something.
Yeah. It
It's
looks
like-
like how you would picture it.
Yeah.
But you would think, oh, it's not actually
It's
that
not
cool.
actually. It's
It
less,
is.
But
it's
it
less
is.
impressive or
Yeah.
something. But it looks like that.
Yeah, you see a Steven Spielberg movie, and you'll see the shooting star, and
Yeah.
you're like, that's not what it actually looks like. And,
Yeah.
And
but sometimes you're like, wow, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're out somewhere where you don't have that light pollution, and it's around the time of a meteor shower, you can see a lot of shooting
Yeah.
stars if you just stop and look. Like, here's the other thing. Like, if you have enough time, and you just go up like somewhere up on the ridge there,
yeah.
and just sit and look at the stars, and you wait long enough, you'll see a shooting star.
Yeah.
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 And so, Ben, I would encourage you to that's his name, right?
Yeah.
Did I ask
Yeah.
the question?
Yeah.
Go somewhere where you don't have light pollution. Well, maybe look up when the next meteor shower is that's scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
Get yourself some hot cocoa.
Yeah.
You know,
Chill and
go by yourself. Go with some friends. Doesn't matter. And like watch this meteor that
yeah.
Yeah.
traveled from interstellar space.
All the way to here.
That's so cool.
That's
George, one time we slept on a trampoline at your house,
Uh-huh.
and that was on the night of a meteor shower.
Yeah.
And I woke up in the night, and it was like showering meteors. So
Wait, you saw
That
like
was-
a lot of shooting stars?
yeah,
all at
it was really cool.
once? Oh wow.
Well, depending on the direction that the meteors are coming, they'll either look like they'll be short because they're coming towards you, or if
Right.
they'll be long because they're
going
like
inside.
across the sky.
Yeah.
Right.
So the best meteor showers are the ones where you have those long ones that
Tails.
just like
Yeah.
those huge long tails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that depends on like the time of I think it depends on the time of day, time of night that the showers and where the Earth is orbiting and
Yeah.
what's happening, because you'll have these like clouds of asteroids, I guess, or like not like large
Crap,
asteroids,
I guess.
but
Crap.
space debris.
Yeah.
That are just that kind of like that will sit in certain parts of the Earth's orbit. So at regular predictable times of year, the Earth will pass through them, and and some of them fall to Earth, and that's why you have a meteor shower.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, I was surprised at how common shooting stars were in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my girlfriend took a astronomy class, and she's gotten really into astronomy, and she has like a telescope. And just looking up for like 10 minutes, you'll probably see one.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
But most of us just don't take those 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to get in place. If you're in a metropolitan area,
You won't see
if you even just downtown Santa Barbara, you're not
Yeah.
going to see it.
Yeah.
George, just put that phone away, for 10 minutes.
Luca Shanewetter says, ask the scientist if he wipes sitting or standing. You don't have to answer that, but I thought that was
Who
kinda
wipes
funny.
standing?
I don't know. Yeah, Luca, get a life.
I mean, just the okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not going to go.
I
into
think
that.
I think we generally all wipe sitting.
I don't
Luca.
think you need to be a scientist for that one.
Yeah.
Such a
July-
wasted question. You could have asked a scientist anything.
July Long Cobb says, why do people think that the Earth is flat?
Ooh.
I was actually thinking real quick. I've seen a video.
Dunning-Kruger effect, maybe.
It's just because it looks flat, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Now
they're just
Ashton,
idiots.
Ashton knows if he goes to Australia, he's not gonna fall off.
Now, guys, I know I'm not going to fall off,
if you go to Australia.
but would I?
You would not. But
So why do people believe that? I mean, this is it's a really fascinating question, and I mean, there's lots of things that people believe that are not based in evidence.
yeah.
So it's based in something, and I think that's a like a social science question that I don't have a great answer for.
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
I could spitball it and say it's probably like people want to feel part of a community. People want
Yeah.
to feel like they have access to like
Special
the
knowledge.
special knowledge that the
Yeah.
rest of us don't.
Yeah.
And also something like the Earth being round is not an intuitive experience of the Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's a very clearly demonstrable fact.
Truth.
Demonstrable fact.
I think,
You don't need to get a spaceship to fly up and like take a picture of the Earth.
Yeah.
All you need to do is you can do it a couple different ways, but they did this in I think they did this in ancient Greece, where you just look at
Oh, yeah, the like angle of the sun, or yeah, you say it, but I think we learned about
I'm trying to remember how you can do it. I mean, you can interpret it. You can do it a couple different ways, but one way is just to like measure how the time of day changes depending on your elevation. Is that right?
Yeah, that would make sense.
Or maybe there's another way.
I think there's something to do with a well and the sun shining into a well. Some ancient Greek dude like use geometry to figure out the curvature of the Earth? I don't really.
Something about the time of day, and if you have wells that are significantly far apart, and you can see the bottom of one,
Yeah.
and not the other.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Oh, so the
Wait,
sun.
how does that work?
I don't really
So-
know. Oh, do you? I just remember learning
'cause I
something
guess
about.
if the Earth is round, which it is, two wells that are sufficiently far apart they'll be facing sort of different angles, I guess.
So the
into
sun's gonna
sky.
shine in.
So the sun's gonna shine
Yeah.
differently into them.
But wouldn't that be true of a flat Earth also?
No, because if you think about like, if this is the Earth and you have a well here and you have a well here, they're facing up at different angles.
Oh,
If the Earth was flat,
it would
the
be
wells
like
would
the
both
sun-
be-
same
Yeah.
sort of.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that
Maybe.
experiment. That's a
Yeah.
good one. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, other ways that you can demonstrate that an object has curvature is by just measuring the distance between points on the surface. Because if a surface is flat, like this, this ping pong table, and you draw you make a triangle on the surface, and then measure the distance between those the ends of the triangle, and you say you measure like the angles between at the ends of those triangles. It's going to add up to 180 for a triangle.
Oh right. Yeah.
If you're on a flat surface, but if you're on a curved surface,
Doesn't.
it's going to be larger than 180, and it's going to depend on how big your triangle is.
Yeah.
So that's kind of so because you can imagine in the largest case going to the equator and walking north to the North Pole and then turning 90 degrees and then walking back to the equator and then turning 90 degrees again, and you walk back to where you started.
Yeah.
So you made two right turns and end up exactly where you started.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that won't happen on a flat surface. That
surface.
can only happen on a curved surface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a kind of geometrical fact.
Yeah.
I saw a video where I don't know, I forget what it was. Basically, they took like 3 people who believe that the Earth is flat and like 3 scientists and like set them down in a room together and had them have like a conversation, and like they're just like flat Earth believers are kind of just immune to fact. Like you could say that all and demonstrate it perfectly, and they'd be like, no, that's a lie or whatever. And they like it's kind of
The weirdest thing
Oh,
to
here-
me though is like you can see the curvature of the Earth. Like if you have some sort of very tall building,
Yeah.
and you're very far away from it, like the ocean. If you see something that's close to the horizon, you can't see all of it, right? If
Yeah.
it's beyond, if the bottom of it is beyond the horizon, you can't see. Like
Like, yeah, why can't we see Hawaii with a telescope?
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like when a ship, if you look at it with like a binoculars, why does a ship disappear bottom first over the horizon?
Yeah.
It's just like you can see the curvature of the Earth.
Yeah.
That's what really, like, you don't have to
Yeah.
understand any math to see that.
Right. And so I think it comes down to these are convictions that aren't held or informed by facts. They're
Yeah.
informed by something else.
It's more of a
Social
psychological.
pressure. That's so
Yeah.
I have a question, and it's about math, and it's is math like?
Related.
Do
to
we have the optimal, system of math? And is it like, because it seems like there's some pretty glaring, just like holes in how we've set up math, like square roots of negative numbers. That just opens up a world of problems, and it's just like, it seems like we.
I would say that square roots of negative numbers open up a world of solutions.
Oh.
I mean, that's
Oh.
probably
Oh.
true, but like the fact that.
I think with that one, at least, it's more the way that high school math is taught. That
Maybe.
the square root of negative numbers is like illegal and you can't do that.
Yeah. But it just seems like the fact that there's, or like that there's just, what's the freaking, when you're graphing something and there's some like,
Undefined.
something in it, undefined.
Yeah.
The fact that there's undefined things and there's things that you just can't do that, or maybe that's just how it's taught. But like, it seems like math makes sense for some stuff, but it kind of breaks down for other stuff.
And wasn't there a video? There's like a really famous video on YouTube of some guy proving that one.
proving that 1 equals 2 or
Yeah,
something.
which is weird.
Or maybe that was a lesson on something he did wrong. I don't know. But the general question is,
what's the question?
Is math like
Could it be better?
does it work in all places? Could it be better? It seems like it sort of breaks down in a number of places that are fairly like.
Okay. So when you say could math be better? So math is like a really big thing. When you're taking math classes in school, you study. What are the different courses you study? Like first you learn your addition, subtraction.
Yeah.
After you've learned your counting, and then you learn multiplication tables, long division, and these are just ways of doing algorithms to relate numbers to each other. But then you get to more complex stuff. You get geometry, you get algebra, and then some trigonometry, some calculus,
Yeah.
and then there's linear algebra. Have any of you taken linear algebra?
Nope.
Okay.
Only calculus.
So
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, so you get to calculus and you're like, and you might think, okay, this is it, but there's like, we haven't even like gotten started on like the real math, because then you get to linear algebra, and then I think that was about as far as I went. Oh no, I took some ODE and PDEs. These are like ordinary differential equations, partial differential equations. You have differential equations is like one kind of mathematics. Well, let me explain what each of these are really quick.
Yeah.
So linear algebra is like matrix multiplication stuff, which doesn't help you that much, but it's like it's a way of doing like complicated like multiplying like a bunch of things together all at once in like complex ways, and it helps with doing things like taking coordinate systems and rotating them and sharing them, and it's something that you'll use in a like a video game if you need to like represent a space and spin it around. Right?
Is that what was on the board in Good Will Hunt? It's like a parentheses, and it's a bunch of numbers in an array.
Oh, okay. Then
I think that was a matrix.
yeah, so that is a matrix.
Okay.
So matrix representations are used a lot in linear algebra.
Yeah. Okay.
Because linear algebra is, Anyway, this is not a course on linear algebra.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got linear algebra, and then you've got like differential equations. And differential equations you get into a little bit in calculus, and this is the idea of relating changes in one or more quantities to other quantities, or like a simple differential equation that you might run into would be, like a really simple one would be, all right, what's the rate at which COVID is spreading? And you could write on one side of the equation a derivative of the number of cases with respect to time.
Yeah.
Say case is C, so dc dt. And you say that equals, and then on the right side of that equation, you put all the different factors that are leading to a growth, an increase in case numbers. Mm-hmm. And you can model this like really simply, where it's like, okay, the growth in case numbers is simply equal to the number of current cases times the number of new people being infected, and you solve that equation and you get exponential growth, which is why we need to take social distancing seriously and do all this, right? Is why epidemics are really, really scary, is because just if you look at the math of it, from that simple like differential equation, you can start to appreciate in a way like how crazy pandemics can get out of control. Mm-hmm. But if you're an epidemiologist, you're gonna probably write a much more complicated differential equation to think about all the different things going on, like how many people are getting vaccinated, what are the different practices going on, and social distancing measures. Mm-hmm. Anyway, okay, that's diff EQs, right? So that's just like that's a part of math that's being that's being used in a bunch of different disciplines, whether it's physics or epidemiology or biology, environmental sciences for understanding ecosystem balance. Okay, that's one kind of math. But then it gets crazier. Then you've got like complex analysis and real analysis. You should probably do real and then complex. And I actually never even took those courses, so I don't even remember what they are. Things get kind of weird there. But still, that's like equations and stuff. And then you get to like a certain type of math where it's like, where it's just people drawing pictures.
Yeah.
And like drawing all these like surfaces and manifolds that are like twisting and like connecting to each other and like and like the mathematicians are like, how do I draw this like fourth dimensional object and things like that. And that's math.
Yeah.
So now bring it back to your question, like, what was the question? Is math incomplete?
Is math like incomplete? It seems like it does some stuff well, but sort of is lacking in other areas, sort of breaks down.
I think a better thing to ask, instead of saying like, is math incomplete, is like, what are maths good for? Because there's many different kinds of maths. Excuse me, there's no burp button here.
No.
Anyway, so there's many different kinds of maths, and if you're trying to solve, if you're trying to like find a solution that's undefined with a certain kind of math, all that tells you is that math isn't suited for solving like that kind of problem, or whatever that, or the question that you're asking isn't well posed.
Yeah.
And this happens a lot. Like I could ask you a question in English, like cream cheese. And under certain contexts,
phenomenal question, by the way.
In certain contexts, that might have a great answer. Like if you just ordered a bagel and I say cream cheese, it makes a lot of sense that the answer is yes or no. But if you have a science guest on a podcast and you ask cream cheese, maybe
you come off as a total doofus, and some of your fellow hosts start to hate you.
I just set up this explanation.
So you just got to think,
it's 40 chess.
Yeah. One thing that I got like pretty interested in was I saw this video by the channel Numberphile, which is like a math channel on YouTube.
Okay.
That means he likes young numbers.
George has a little joke that he does where any word with the suffix "file" is somehow related to pedophilia.
Like small numbers.
Yeah.
So they did this proof where they showed that the sum of all the integers, so like 1 + 2 + 3 + 4, is equal to -1/12. And this was like their like kind of, it went like super viral, and then it was sort of controversial in the math community the way that they proved it. And then I saw this video talking about it where the guy explained it that like in a certain sense, if you sum up all the integers, it just blows up to infinity, and that's not really useful. But he said that when you look at it, and I think he had done research in like quantum mechanics, and like quantum physics, and he said that this infinite sum of all the integers comes up in quantum mechanics, and in some ways, treating it as -1/12 is useful, in some contexts. And I thought that was like pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, and I have nothing to add.
Yeah.
I'm curious though. I'm gonna check out this video afterwards.
Yeah.
Numberphile.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of.
It's hard to imagine how you could go about proving that the sum of all integers equals 1/12.
I think it was sort of a simple proof that a layman could understand, and I think for that reason it might have done things that aren't exactly mathematically rigorous. But yeah, I can send you the link to that video, and then.
So are they all positive integers or negative integers as well? What's? I don't.
Yeah, they're all positive integers. So
what
Yeah,
I want to watch that too.
It doesn't make. There's something that I'm not appreciating to understand how you could argue that.
it's sort of hard to explain how they did it, but it sort of had to do with, okay, well, if you like multiply the whole series by this, and they sort of used different series and then added them together. Yeah, I'm
Sounds
not
like
gonna be
they're
able to explain it.
overcounting. They're overcounting or undercounting certain things. That's weird.
Right, yeah.
Sounds like they're shoddy. So
Shoddy math.
It sounds like.
But the thing that was
how would you
interesting-
get that neat of a number for adding every?
They did
it's
it,
just
and
like,
if you pay,
what?
like if you watch it, you can follow what they did, and whether it's mathematically.
okay, well
rigorous,
let's watch
but-
it after because I'm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that was interesting though was that like whatever they did was in some way valid.
Okay.
If in quantum in actual research and observations of the universe, if this sum comes up in the math of it and minus a 12th is useful, then
Right.
there's some truth to the fact that, well, maybe in some way it is.
Yeah.
There's some like useful math. And
Huh.
there's a video of a guy talking about why it is useful
Yeah.
to say that it's minus 12 in some cases.
So when you say like taking the square root of a negative number, I'd you're kind of taught in high school math, like, well, I mean, you can do it, but you get an I and it's an imaginary number and or some multiple of I or
You probably
whatever.
made a mistake if you're doing that.
Yeah, yeah. So when you say it opens up a world of solutions, is there a certain kind of math where it's all about taking square roots of negative numbers, and that totally makes sense if you're using this framework?
Well, yeah. So this, if you think about what's the square root of a negative number, you have kind of two options. You can say, well, square root as an operation is not defined on negative numbers, and that's just kind of like the end of it. And you say we just don't do that. That's not what that tool is for.
Yeah.
But then some mathematicians are like, okay, but, oh, sorry. But what if you did? What would that mean? And that's like an exciting that's an exciting part of math, is that you can ask those questions like, well, what if it was defined? How could we define it, this operation? And they say, okay, let's imagine that there's this number we haven't used before, but we'll imagine that it's I.
Mm-hmm.
And it has the property that when you multiply it by itself, you get -1. And once you define the square root of -1 as I, then you can start to define the square root of any negative number. And then instead of thinking of numbers as existing on a line, you think of numbers as existing on a complex plane. So numbers are no longer one-dimensional, have one-dimensional values that go from -infinity to infinity, but it's a set of values on a surface, on a plane, that goes from, negative infinity to positive infinity, but also negative infinity I to positive I infinity, and then all the different combinations in between.
Yeah.
And then if I take a square root of a negative number, it's not going to have just one square root, but it's going to have two square roots, because you can kind of imagine this going back to thinking of plotting a parabola on a Cartesian plane, and you're sometimes asked, solve this equation and find the roots.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you want to find where does that cross the plane, where does y equal 0, and there's multiple numbers.
Yes.
Anyway, it's all kind of connected to that. Huh. But it's useful then because people figured out you can also use imaginary numbers to do things like Fourier Analyses. A Fourier analysis is a way of breaking up some function into a bunch of component functions. And this is actually going to take us back to Ashton in the shower, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm. It always seems to.
It always seems to, because this is something that happens with sound all the time, where we want to take a sound wave and then break it up and represent it as a bunch of different harmonics that build up to create that complex wave that makes up a sound. So mathematically, imaginary numbers are useful for that. I'll leave it there.
Cool.
'Cause this isn't really a lecture.
Yeah.
You guys don't need to do that. You just need to know that they're really useful for that.
Yeah. So Ashton kind of got pwned there.
Yeah, in a way.
It's sort of weird that they kind of don't teach it like that in high school, because like you learn it, like you work with two-dimensional planes and graphing stuff in 2 dimensions like all the time in high school.
Yeah.
And that's what the complex plane is, right? It's kind of weird that they just kind of skip over.
Yeah.
But I guess you can't learn everything in high school.
I remember we did one little bit on complex numbers, where we did e to the I theta, which no, this is what it was. It was our professor. No, it wasn't a professor. Teacher, Mr. Cole, wrote. He taught us about imaginary numbers and how you can plot different numbers in the complex plane using like a polar coordinate representation with e to the I theta. Anyway, you do all this, and he wrote like an equation e to the I pi plus 1.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
And it's like, and he was like, this is the sum of all your mathematical knowledge. And it turns out you do it, you end up getting 0, because e to the I pi points to -1 on the complex plane, and then 1. Those add up to 0.
Oh, cool.
Hopefully our audience could follow that pretty
Yeah, I think so. They're smart cookies. Let's see
Wicked smart.
Let's see if they can follow these questions, which could be tough. They're from my older sister. They kind of go hand in hand. The first one is sexiest physicist, and the second one is favorite scientist.
Ooh, okay. I mean,
I'm going with Newton for sexiest physicist. That hair.
Agree to disagree. I think you gotta go for sexiest physicist. It's hard to not choose Richard Feynman.
Right.
I mean, the kid's a looker, right? That's where my mind goes.
I mean, I don't even think I need to qualify that answer.
Look up. What's it?
Yeah, can we look up Richard Feynman?
Look up Richard Feynman. You should read. You might enjoy reading his book. Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman.
Oh, good looking dude.
Yeah.
Good, just a classic.
Yeah.
Male beauty,
Richie Rich.
lady killer. I'm sure.
Yeah, he actually developed this new way of doing quantum mechanics with they're called Feynman diagrams after him.
That turns me on.
It's cool because you like draw these like pictures and arrows and little squiggle things, and it's a way of doing the same kind of it's a way of doing the same kind of science, but in this like really different representation.
Yeah.
And that's really important to recognize that you can do science in one way that looks a little more like maybe differential equations, but then you can also represent that same physical phenomena with like squiggles on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
Seems like math gets hard, and then you get to the very top, and then you're just like drawing shapes, like having
the
fun.
hardest that it is the kind of thing where you see some mathematicians like puzzling over stuff, and you look, and it's just like weird squiggles on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, great,
Cool.
Yeah.
Good work, guys.
Good for you.
I did these. Khan Academy has this challenge for high school students where you make a video explaining some sort of math or science topic in 5 minutes, and it's a contest, and there's a winner. And I was doing mine one year, and my dad he picked up this book on Amazon, QED, Quantum Electrodynamics by Richard Feynman. And I read part of it like as trying to like, because I think I had an idea of what I wanted to do, and I tried reading this book, and it was just like, this is way over my head.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can understand this, let alone explain it in 5 minutes. So.
Maybe not. Yeah.
Also, Eli, have you ever dabbled in Sudoku?
Yeah. I think in high school I did some Sudoku. Yeah.
Because I play it on my phone a lot. And
And I'll sometimes play on the podcast.
Yeah, well, one time in probably what I would consider a top 3 worst podcast moment for us, Ben started playing. We're talking about Sudoku, and Ben just started playing it mid podcast.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it documented in the audio? Are you?
I think so. I looked over and I said, Ben, are you playing Sudoku right now? And he said, yeah.
yeah.
I don't play Sudoku these days. But I did start. Now that I've finished my PhD, I have a little more bandwidth in my life.
Yeah.
And I started playing chess on
Nice.
and I'm still not very good.
Yeah.
Chess Grandmaster. That's badass.
I beat OT in chess a few weeks ago, and he has
Got
this
lucky.
app. Well, he has this. Maybe I'm. Oh my gosh! I was at some really quick tangent. I was at a New Year's party, and two guys were playing chess. And
This was pre-COVID.
pre-COVID, yeah, not this most recent New Year's. It was a few years ago. And one of the guys was like, "Yeah, I'm just like so unorthodox, and I think that's what makes me so good is I don't know what I'm doing, but the other guy doesn't either." And I think he was just totally BSing because you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
In some way. Like you can't just make random moves. and, like,
That's not making you
stump a
good.
veteran chess.
Wow, he's playing the mental game.
Yeah.
He's playing,
And he's not
He's
winning
playing chess,
either.
not checkers, but he's not playing chess.
Yeah. But I beat OT in chess a few weeks ago, and we entered it into this like analysis app that OT has on his phone, where you enter an entire chess game, and it like tells you who is ahead at any given like
So who missed the opportunities?
who missed the opportunities, like who is. Yeah, that has some way of calculating who's in a better position based on the status of the board.
Right.
And I was like way behind for all of it
And then
until
one
the
move.
very end.
Yeah.
And
It only takes one bad move to bring it all down.
but
What
that
happened, Oliver?
he just blew it.
can't tell ya.
He
He
cracked
screwed
under the
food.
pressure.
I blundered.
He's soft.
Do you know how you did you figure out how you blundered?
Yeah.
You
It was
you
pretty
understood
obvious.
You just put a piece and you didn't see another piece.
I opened up this I think it was a diagonal, and then
Yeah.
my king was in the corner, and it was just boom.
Yeah.
You moved your queen, and then it was.
So
Boom.
Gotta see the whole.
I should play more
I
chess.
lulled him into a false sense of security. It was a master
We got
plan
a
on my
chess
part.
set, I think.
I used to be in.
You
it's
get
not-
that for your dad?
Yeah, but I want an all marble one when I grow up.
I wonder, like, if
if
George,
I ever get into chess, I'll do that.
or
if it was
are you just
just
really
like-
rich?
No, you don't want the marble one. You want the ones that are like that you can roll up and like take to the park.
I have one of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
I
I'll get a rolling marble one.
it's the-
Technology will be so advanced.
Sometimes I wonder, like,
But that is true. Like on a little table in a park.
just in a park.
I used to have
That's
a-
so
I
nice.
used to have like a magnetic book thing that had all the little.
That's
and
cool.
yeah.
Oh, that's dope.
I wonder, like, if I was like stranded on a desert island, or like with one other person, and I think about this in terms of the guitar, because I'm learning to play the guitar. I think about like if I just like was stranded on a desert island, brought a guitar with me, no one to teach me, no one to model how to play
Yeah,
the guitar
you
with
invent
me.
your own
like,
craft.
How would I play the guitar?
That's cool.
And so I'm thinking about that with chess. If it
Yeah.
was just like me and George, two not even amateur chess players, totally
expert.
No,
Not even amateur.
totally inexperienced. Like I know the
just know the
rules and
rules,
that's it. Like what would we come up with?
Yeah, would we revolutionize it? Probably. Got to assume so.
Those are almost like think tanks. Like people
Yeah.
just kind of do that.
Yeah,
Like
just- yeah.
I would
Well,
say it would be very hard to come up with
Something that
strategies
hasn't been
better
done.
than the pre-existing strategy.
Well, you got to think about how many different games of chess have been played.
like 3 maybe.
Yeah, at least.
Let's see. Well, I played OT, and then I think that
There's
one.
probably two others.
Yeah, at least two others.
Yeah, but so you look at the game and this is explained to me. This is some other podcast I was listening to, where they talked about how at a certain point in like, when in like a chess tournament where you have like really experienced players playing, you'll get to they'll often be playing where they're playing the same set of moves that have been played before because they're kind of the optimal best set. But then the more that you get into the game, you go from the first move where everyone starts out with the pieces in the same position.
Yeah.
Everyone starts the game the same way. But then, the more you play, fewer and fewer people have played that game with the pieces in that exact position.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where like, this is the first time that game has been played.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
And
like,
I think most of us probably don't get to that spot.
Yeah.
Most of us are playing the games that
that have been played
thousands
and thousands
and there
of times.
is like a best strategy that we just haven't learned.
Yeah.
So
That's-
I would think if you're on the desert island, what are the chances that you would end up playing like a new game? Probably not.
Probably.
Well, it depends on how long you were on the island.
Yeah.
Also, if you're playing against two people who don't know the pre-existing strategy, you might get into some wacky position. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another question that just occurred to me, based on that chess thing. So, OT was telling me about some theory where, like, imagine the universe is not infinite, which I don't know, like, if scientists think it's infinite or not. But imagine it's not, and there's like a finite number of like positions that atoms can be in. Are we just going to reach a point where, or like, is the position of atoms that caused this whole timeline that we're on, is that going to happen at another point down the line?
Just by chance.
Just by chance, and then this exact thing is going to happen again.
Oh, because there's a finite position of atoms.
Yeah, there's a finite number of
Yeah.
ways that atoms can like orient themselves in the universe.
So I feel like there's a better question that you could have asked. So you're saying, well, you're starting from the premise of let's assume the universe is finite.
Yeah.
Right. We don't think it's finite. We think it's
We don't?
probably infinite. The observable universe,
Crazy.
is finite,
Yeah.
but the actual universe is infinite.
Is it? I don't know. Whatever. I've heard a thing that it's like expanding. Is that
Like
is that
red
what-
shift, blue shift.
No.
Yeah, red fish, blue fish.
What? Red shift, blue shift.
Yeah, no, I got you.
You're just saying words, Ben. I need you to stop.
Yeah. No, so the universe is totally expanding, and we know that.
How is it expanding and also infinite?
Well, the things are expanding in the universe, and the universe is also infinite. Like they're separate properties. So like imagine that you have a chessboard. You could imagine that the chessboard is expanding, and maybe all the pieces stay the same size, but the squares that the pieces sit in get bigger. Right? You can imagine that.
Yeah.
Right?
So the
But
chessboard-
now let's imagine the chessboard itself is infinite, and it's expanding. So all the pieces are getting further apart on this infinite chessboard. But now it's a 3D thing, and it evolves in time, and that's how it expands. But you were asking the idea: could we somehow end up with the same configuration of atoms at maybe another point in space-time?
Yeah.
So there's I know that Brian Greene has put forth this idea.
I know him. He was
that-
on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, he's one of those science communicators.
Yeah.
He's at.
He did a TED Talk also.
I think he's at Columbia. Maybe he's moved, but I think he's still there. But he's put forward this idea of, okay, the universe is infinite. He probably wasn't the first person to say this, but if the universe is infinite, and the number of pieces in the universe are finite, then there's only so many different ways to combine those pieces. Just like there's only so many different ways to organize the pieces on a chessboard.
Yeah.
So if we think of like the universe like an infinite chess set with like a bunch of different games happening in parallel,
Yeah.
if you draw any 8x8, is that how big a chessboard is? 8x8?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think it sounds right.
Yeah, it is.
Wait, or is it 6x6?
I think it's.
I don't think it's 6x6.
Oh yeah, because you got the bishop. Yeah, okay, yeah, 8x8. All right. So, so imagine that you have these 8x8 grids, on this infinite chessboard and a bunch of different games being played in parallel, if you like start scanning and like scanning through this infinite space, eventually you're gonna find another game that's in the exact same place as the game that you started with.
Yeah.
If the universe is truly infinite. So that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
And so if you really believe that the universe is infinite, as we don't have any reason to believe it's not, then this same conversation that we're having right now is happening somewhere else. Probably not in the observable universe, but which makes it kind of challenging. It's like, if it's not observable, is it still real?
Yeah.
But
It's like the bizarro world.
It's kind of like the multiverse theory, but all in one universe.
yeah, it's the multiverse theory, but within like our own physical universe.
Yeah.
Because
That's crazy.
it would be totally impossible to access them, right? It'd just be too far away.
Too far. Yeah. That's why I say it's like totally unobservable.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird to think of that as like scientific in a sense, because science is about organizing knowledge based on testable hypotheses.
Yeah.
But when we start saying, well, but the math says that if the universe is infinite, then you would have, just by sheer probability, this situation would be realized somewhere.
Yeah. It seems almost like less of like a theory and more of like a deduction. Like if these premises are right, then like that is true, right?
Exactly. Yeah. A leaf just fell from a tree.
Why is it the default that the universe is like? Why do you need evidence to suggest that it's not infinite and not the other way around? Or is there already some evidence that has suggested it's infinite?
Yeah, this is like one of those things that I've kind of like taken for just like that. Well, this is how we think about things. So you would want to ask the question, what would be implied if the universe was finite?
Yeah.
If the universe is finite, what does that mean? That means there's an edge. And getting to an edge of the universe implies is there something on the other side of that edge? Like if you took your spaceship up to the edge of the universe, what would that look like? That's a much harder thing for us to wrap our minds around. I say us, maybe I mean like scientists, physicists. That's a much harder thing to wrap your mind around than the idea that it just keeps on going.
Why? I feel like both of them are impossible to conceptualize, really. Like,
well,
nothing that I see around me is it's kind of insane.
Let's think about time. Do you think that time ends?
Have no idea. And I don't know how I would ever go about figuring that out.
Okay, right. But I think it's a great place to start. So imagine, like, if you were able to live forever, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Would you get to a point where it's like, well, this is the last moment, and then that's the end?
Yeah.
Or
maybe forever.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe probably on Earth. I think Earth, but not for time.
But but do you think that time will go on forever?
I feel like yeah. Oh my god.
But also, I mean, we're sort of intuitively
maybe
saying,
it doesn't, because the universe collapses and time is some property that is dependent on that. I don't know.
But like, I don't know if human intuition gets us anywhere real. Intuition told us that the Earth was flat, and it's because
but intuition then with experimentation tells us that the Earth is round.
But is that intuition, or is that? I mean,
it's deduction. It's deduction from evidence.
Yeah,
There's
I guess
some
what
level
I'm
of intuition about how a round Earth would behave, and then you back that up with and it does behave.
Yeah, I guess I'm just saying that the universe is infinite or that time is infinite because we cannot conceptualize what it would look like if it wasn't. I don't know if I buy that, because there's all sorts of things we can't conceptualize.
So you're a skeptic. in that regard.
guess.
You're saying I all right, but if you were to make a bet, do you think the universe is more likely to be infinite or finite?
I'd flip a coin. I have no idea. I just have. It's like the universe doesn't like configure itself around what makes sense to humans.
Well, what if the universe is curved?
That'd be super cool.
Like
No,
in
I
what
don't,
way?
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, in the way that the Earth is curved.
Right, like if you fly away from the Earth long enough,
Uh-huh.
you'll come back around and then you'll see you'll arrive at the Earth again.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Could be. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I just.
Jeez, it's so mind-boggling. It's literally like
I guess because how
I don't know.
for what we perceive as something that's exists in 3 dimensions to be curved, would that you kind of have to conceptualize like a 4th dimension to, because like I don't know how I'm trying to say this.
So, like when you think of the Earth's surface,
Yeah,
it's curved,
it's
but it's
2D.
embedded in a 3D space.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you have a curved 3-dimensional space? Does it need to be embedded in a 4th dimensional space?
Right.
Plasma
And I,
plasma.
everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one where I might, if any like actual like cosmologists are listening, feel free to call me out if I get something wrong.
I think we've got a pretty good shot at having no cosmologist.
Okay.
Is Abby Ben's
No.
sister?
No.
She does. Okay. So we're.
So
She's our
close.
main listener, so
Yeah.
if it's
But yeah, as I recall, like the idea of a curved space-time doesn't, or a curved space doesn't actually require like a 4th spatial dimension to be curved in. It's just a property of how distances change relative to the distances between objects will change as 2 objects continue on straight trajectories. If 2 objects travel on straight trajectories on the Earth, they will get closer together as they approach a pole. All right, so
Right,
they
that's
start
like
out
the
they start out parallel. I mean,
longitudinal.
then they're
Oh,
going to
yeah,
get
yeah.
closer
Okay.
together. But if depending on the kind of curvature, you could also have it where 2 objects get further apart. So that's an example of like space being curved itself, and it doesn't actually require it to be embedded in another kind of space. And we actually know that space-time does get curved by gravity. That's kind of how gravity works. It
Yeah.
bends.
Okay.
it
that's
bends
like black
space.
holes because
Like black holes or even the Earth.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And because of general relativity, these things are coupled in a way that if you like fall into a black hole, it slows down time, or it slows down like your perception of time. So like,
Yeah.
it speeds up for you as you fall into the black hole, so you can actually watch like the whole age of the universe unfold while you're falling into a black hole. Which is
I think that's worth it, probably.
it's a consolation
cool. It'd be a good way
prize
to go.
for sure.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. Oh my gosh. I don't know.
I was going to
forgot
say,
it.
so if you think of the Earth, the surface of the Earth is like a 2D surface that's curved. If you walk in a straight line long enough, you'll get back to where you started, and you can keep going, and you'll always get back to where you started. But you can escape that sort of loop by like going up, right? Like you could go up out into space.
Right.
If you're talking about a universe that's 3 dimensions and it's curved, and where if you go in a straight line, you'll get back to where you started. What's the like going up to sort of escape that? Would that not be like a 4th
Well,
dimension?
that's where the analogy breaks down. So we don't think there's anything analogous to that in the actual 3-dimensional space. There isn't a way to jump off of our
Yeah.
3-dimensional universe.
Right.
Huh.
Jeez.
Yeah.
All right. This was from Polly mid podcast. She asked this.
Oh,
Real quick. Aiden Speak asks, "How do mermaids be having sex?" I don't know if you know that.
Well, I did
I
do
huge
my
story.
PhD. It involved a lot of fish sex.
Yeah.
Because I studied the development of zebrafish embryos.
Uh-huh.
And so we would take the zebrafish and you put them in a tank.
You let
and-
nature take its course.
And they spend the night together, and then in the morning the sun comes up, or the lights turn on in the fish room, that's when the fish spawn. So they
Does it happen all in one night? They get pregnant and have babies?
well,
Oh, because it's eggs.
it's eggs.
So they
yeah,
shoot them out, but the babies aren't ready yet.
Just shoot them out.
right,
That's the terms, I'm sure.
right. So the
The babies need some time.
right. So what will happen is the fish, the male fish, or first like the male fish will swim alongside the female fish, and kind of brush up against her, and then the female fish will shoot out her eggs, and then the male fish will shoot out his sperm, and then so they actually get fertilized
Outside of each other?
outside. Yeah,
That seems risky.
it seems risky, but there's a lot of eggs.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So so
Yeah.
some of them eventually, some of them, a lot of them do get fertilized. And then we collect the eggs, and then they grow up, and then they develop, and that's what we use.
How big are
to study.
zebrafish?
An adult zebrafish is about an inch. Well, depending on whether you're including the tail, they're
Yeah.
like an inch or two long.
Why did you choose them? Just because they're little and like...
So zebrafish are a model organism that a lot of people use in labs. And they've been studied. I'm trying to recall when exactly they became a model organism. I want to say it was the 70s or 80s. But the reason that people chose them is they wanted to study fish in the lab, and there wasn't a good fish model, so they went to the pet store, and they just like got a lot of. I think they bought a lot of fish from the pet store, and then started raising, and chose zebrafish because they laid a lot of eggs, and they reached. I think it was also because they reached sexual maturity pretty easily. So they're just a really convenient animal to grow in the lab, because you just put them in an aquarium, and you get a lot of eggs, which is good for doing the science.
Yeah, that's cool.
Nice.
So that's how zebrafish be having sex.
So so for mermaids, let's get back to the question. I'd imagine that mermaids probably have a cloaca, which is like a all-in-one hole for excrement, waste removal, as well as reproduction. So what I would imagine is they probably it's probably similar to zebrafish. So they're gonna shoot out their eggs, and then and shoot out their sperm, and so it'll happen kind of outside.
Yeah,
of
because
yeah.
they're not very.
I don't think that mermen have penises. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, or else it wouldn't. Yeah, it would be gross.
No, it doesn't work.
It just, from a developmental biologist perspective, I don't think that's happening.
I mean, if we're saying from the waist down they're fish,
Yeah.
we
Then
gotta commit to that.
Yeah.
There's no cop outs. Oh yeah, well they're kind of human. No, they're fish. They do
They're
it.
fish.
They do it
Yeah.
fish style.
I have a question. How long have you been growing your beard? Because that thing.
I was thinking that.
Well, it definitely stopped getting maintained when I got into final months of writing my dissertation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last time I shaved it, last time I trimmed it would have been maybe around Christmas time. I maybe cleaned it up a little bit. But I normally shave it around Halloween. I like to dress up as Jack Skellington because I made like the suit one year,
Right.
and so now
That's
I
kind of
just
your
gotta
go. It's nice to have a go-to.
shave, paint my face. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
And then people are like really, really surprised because they're not used to seeing me without the beard.
Yeah.
And then I grow out the beard for
I got
for Christmas. But this year, because of COVID, I was like, I'm not gonna shave the beard. I'm just gonna wear a mask over my face. That was my thing. So, so I don't think I've shaved the beard since last Halloween. No, so Halloween 2019.
19.
Jeez.
How itchy does that get?
Are
Are you kind of used to it?
It doesn't get itchy. Beard hairs curve, right?
Yeah.
Curvature, bringing it back. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
And depending on how much your beard curves, once it gets to a certain length, it'll like come back and be poking your skin, and that's when it's irritating.
That's
right?
what I can grow a little beard and it gets super annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what you can do, I mean, I might encourage everyone who can grow beards to try this. If you've never grown a beard, just,
Okay, will do. Will do.
Yeah, I got one going all right.
you just
now.
got to go for it. Just don't touch it, and get past that itchy stage. See if you can get past that itchy stage, and then it's curved. The beard hairs have curved all the way around.
Oh, and now
They're no longer irritating you, and then they're nice, like soft and cushy and cozy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in.
If you walk in a straight line along a beard hair,
Exactly.
takes you right back to the beard hair.
Right back to the chin, on your chinny
So-
chin.
So you'll shave the beard at Halloween, and then it's fully grown by Christmas.
Well, if you look at my wedding photos, you can see that's because I shaved right at Halloween, and then you can see the beard that I had during my for my wedding.
When was your wedding?
So that was December 29th.
Oh,
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Is that right? I think that's right.
That's nice. That's a good. That's a pretty rememberable date.
Yeah. So either the 29th or 27th.
Is that-
Now I'm like,
Wait,
no,
that's
it's
not
the
Christmas.
29th.
No, but it's like
Were you thinking that-
Christmas. It's like Thanksgiving. I mean, whoa, New Year's Eve.
December 29th?
It's awfully close.
George
Yeah,
has
so-
George
Okay.
has, George has,
George has issues
I don't know
with
the months. I don't
Yeah,
know the
George
months.
has
So this
issues.
is it. So we got
oh my god,
December 20.
it's like right near Thanksgiving kind of.
So December 23rd.
It's within 12 months of Thanksgiving, almost certain.
The 23rd is my uncle's birthday,
Mm-hmm.
and then the 25th is Christmas,
Right.
and then the 27th is my niece's birthday, and
Oh.
the 29th is my wedding anniversary, and
Mm-hmm.
also my twin brother's wedding anniversary.
Whoa.
You have a twin brother?
I have a twin brother.
Identical?
Is he identical? or-
No.
Do you have any sort of powers with him?
Yes.
Really?
Wait, what are you asking?
We got to get into
George?
that.
Powers?
Like telekinesis style.
Oh.
No, not telekinesis.
telekinesis. Isn't that like moving stuff with your brain?
Yeah.
Telepathy
Telepathy.
style.
Telepathy.
Telepathy
We,
style.
we have the power to have a good time together.
That's
Yeah.
fun. That's a
That's
pretty
good.
good. That's an okay power.
That's a fine power.
No, I think there is something like there's like a special connection that we have from just, growing up together, and
Yeah.
always like
Yeah.
knowing each other, and we're very different people in many ways, but there's also like there's ways in which like when he and I are together, it's like, oh yeah, there's like definitely something special that we share.
That's so
was
cool.
he your best man at your wedding?
He was, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's dope. Yeah, okay. I don't know. That'd be kind of cool to have a twin because like OT and I are pretty
Yeah.
close, but if we were the same age, it might be like
Yeah.
Then you guys be twins.
Add another-
basically.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost exactly.
Yeah.
This was a good question.
Wait, which one? My mom asked one mid
Yeah, this is what it is. What about Polly says, ask Eli about RNA vaccines. What are they? Could they end up having unexpected consequences?
I was gonna
mRNA. I learned about that in AP biology.
That's the unit we're on right now.
Yeah, all the different types of RNA.
And it's
There's like tRNA,
it's
transfer,
like A pairs with T, C pairs with G type thing.
all sorts of stuff.
I was gonna get to that. Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
because
Yeah.
our bathroom has been really stinky lately,
Okay.
and we
bring
don't know
this back.
and we don't know what's up. So we had a plumber come.
He's like, it's all the mRNA in here.
No, and he said
Like, it's just you guys.
he just my
really
mom said he
gross.
just kept wanting to talk about like COVID and stuff, and he was like an anti-vaxxer,
Oh.
and he just like kept bringing it up, and she was like, I don't like you anymore, but didn't say that to him. But like he said, like, they put a chemical mRNA in there. It's not meant to be in your. Scientists don't think it should be in your body. And it's like, dude, you're just so uninformed.
So so I've gotten the Moderna vaccination, which
Have you gotten both of them?
I'm getting my second one this Thursday.
Oh, nice.
Pretty
Or-
excited. So
Did they-
I'm in that
did they
window where I probably already have, they say like 80%.
Yeah, we are
that's-
all of us vaxxed.
George is double,
Fully vaxxed. Fully vaxxed.
I get
half vax, half vax.
I get my second on the 14th.
Oh, boom.
I get my second pretty soon also.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what's up.
So mRNA, it's an awesome technology. It's one that it may feel like it's super new, but scientists have been working on developing mRNA-based vaccines for a while. I think like 10 years. And I've actually used mRNA in the lab.
That's cool.
You can use it to inject zebrafish embryos or many different kinds of embryos. But if you inject it at the single cell level, we already talked about zebrafish sex. So what we then do is we collect the eggs in like a tea strainer, bring them back to the lab, and then you inject the eggs with mRNA that will code for the production of certain proteins that you're interested in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Specifically, let's say that you want to visualize the nuclei of the cells so you can track where the cells are. What you can do is you can make what's called a fusion protein that is a fusion between some protein that would normally sit inside the nucleus and something that is fluorescently labeled. Fluorescence is like, you put on a black light and then you can see like certain things glow. That's fluorescence.
Yeah.
But we use lasers in the lab and it's fun. So anyway, you can use mRNA to get the cell to carry out a set of instructions and produce a certain protein.
In biology, we did an experiment where we had a number of conditions for like bacteria growing on a petri dish.
Oh, we made it glow.
And you made it glow
With
red.
mRNA.
And you inject the red fluorescent protein
Yeah, we did that.
into, that's not RNA, but
It's like just the protein
I guess it's just like sort of circumventing the whole,
production of the protein.
yeah,
already
and you're
have
just
it.
giving it to it. But it's kind of similar.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, maybe it was an mRNA injection, or it could have been, or no, you know what it probably was? It was probably you injected DNA, you injected a plasmid.
Yeah, it was a plasmid.
It was
I was trying to think of
It was
that.
a plasmid. I wish I understood it. When I was doing the lab report, the gears started turning, and I finally actually understood it. And it's been like a year since we did that, so I don't understand it anymore.
Okay, but this is actually really important. The difference between DNA, which is what serves
It's
to
like
store
the-
your genome in our bodies
It's
and,
like
and other animals.
the template that the RNA copies, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so it's like you have your master. The kind of master plan is in the DNA.
Yeah.
And then the RNA is like, that's not archival. That's like a newspaper.
Yeah, it's coming and
Like
going.
that's something that's actually going to break apart very quickly in the body, and that's why it's really great to use for a vaccine.
Yeah.
Because you can inject it into your body. It's going to go into certain cells, and then the cells are going to produce spike proteins, which your immune system uses to kind of train on. So you teach your immune system, hey, look,
COVID.
here's the spike protein. This shouldn't be here. Like,
What are you gonna do?
what are you going to do? And then your immune system is like,
Provoke it, and you call it, you know,
Yeah,
you
so-
say it's not cool enough to do it.
Yeah, you won't do it.
Yeah.
You won't
You
do
don't
it.
have the stones to get rid of it.
and it's like, oh no, I've never seen the spike protein before. Quick. And it like tries a bunch of different ways to make antibodies. And this is really cool. Like our bodies
Yeah.
can make
we were
antibodies
talking about that.
that are
Yeah.
specifically tailored to proteins never seen before.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I find
And so by
Yeah.
giving someone an mRNA vaccine, it's a really safe way to teach your body how to respond to a spike protein. If you get COVID, if you get the actual virus, your body is gonna also go through this process of generating those antibodies, but you're also gonna have
it makes you sick.
you're also gonna have COVID already like invading your body, and you can have all these like bad health consequences before your body figures out how to fight off the virus.
so. An mRNA vaccine is not.
It's not
It's
DNA.
not giving you a little bit of the virus.
No, it's not.
It's not.
What it's
Okay.
doing is, do you know the comic XKCD?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, so
Do you, Ben?
No, I don't.
Oh, Ben's a Marvel buff / DC buff.
Eh.
Okay.
Wait, George. He wrote.
You are. You can say
The
it.
author wrote the book.
What if?
What if? Yeah. What
Yes,
if?
this is Randall
Oh,
Monroe.
I don't know that
Yeah.
book.
I read that book.
Yeah, that's the author. Of the
Okay, so that's Randall Monroe.
Yeah, George.
He has a great comic that I would encourage you to check out, where he makes the analogy with between an mRNA vaccine and like Princess Leia stealing the blueprints to the Death Star.
Nice.
So what they do there, you can imagine that if you stole the blueprints to the Death Star, you could make a Death Star, and then a planet, and you put it near a planet, and the planet has like a rebel base, and they're like, oh no, like a Death Star, and then they start like attacking it and fighting it, and they can't figure out like how to break it down. But then they're like, oh wait, if you go and shoot like a photon torpedo in the fusion reactor, you can like take it out.
Yeah.
And then if an actual
The
Death
real
Star
Death Star
shows
shows
up,
up, they can
you're like,
replicate that
we know
process.
exactly how to take this thing out.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's like a template type thing. It's
Oh yeah. What was the
like
question? We're like,
like
what is mRNA? So mRNA is a blueprint for making something, like some protein. And in this case,
Yeah.
it's the blueprint for making this one part of the virus, the spike protein, which isn't the part that makes you sick, but it's I think it's the part that's important for how the virus gets into your cells.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then
If
why?
if I'm wrong about some
Yeah, that makes
aspects of
sense
the
to me.
biology, get at me. But.
So why do you feel side effects? It makes sense that you'd have a fever because
Yeah.
that's one of the tactics that your body is using to try to,
Yeah, your
vanquish the
immune
spike
system.
protein.
Your immune system is so complex.
Yeah.
Like your immune system is the most complex system in your body after, like your central nervous system, which is like where all our cognition is.
Yeah.
So you can think about this. It's this other kind of system of intelligence in your body. The reason you feel like fatigue, and maybe you get a fever. I don't know if some people do.
You get a fever.
I had a fever.
And
Yeah.
fatigue. And,
So that
yeah.
makes sense because those are all parts of the ways that your body's natural immunity fights off a virus.
Yeah.
So when people say like, oh, I want to have a natural immunity, it's like, well, that's exactly what the vaccine is giving you. It's training your body's natural
Yeah.
immune responses
Yeah.
to fight off the virus in a very effective and safe
way. Yeah. There's zero.
I want natural.
Yeah.
What's unnatural about like?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
mRNA
totally
is a
natural.
very it's a really great way to do it because once you've figured out a way to deliver mRNA effectively into the body, let's say that there's some other virus that we want to make a vaccine for, you can just kind of go in and change the code of the mRNA
and use the same delivery.
and maybe use the same delivery system. So you can imagine being in a place a couple years from now where we start to have vaccines that are working on things that we've never been able to eradicate in the past. And maybe they're not 100% eradication, but it's all about risk reduction. And if we can get to the point where COVID is, you have the number of deaths per day from COVID is, about the same or lower than from the flu, then we can start to go back to how things were.
Yeah.
We probably won't get to a place where it's virtually eliminated the way that we are with something like measles. It'd be great if we could get that many people vaccinated. Everyone listening to this should, get natural immunity by
Yeah.
getting the vaccine.
It's
Like,
just-
if you want natural immunity, get
the
vaccinated.
It's really
It's
discouraging.
so much safer. It's so much safer than getting COVID.
Do they want?
I-
so people.
okay.
That's.
Okay. I was telling Oti about this yesterday. This is and bless his heart, but this is probably the stupidest thing I've ever heard someone say about COVID. Someone put on his story, he was trying to do this thing where he's like, let's have a real discussion about the vaccine, which, by the way, you're not equipped to do without someone with knowledge supervising. So if you're just on a desert island with your other dumb friend talking about a vaccine, you're not getting anywhere.
You have no idea.
You're
You
coming
need
to
someone to
conclusions that-
facilitate this
that just-
discussion that knows what they're talking about. So anyway, he like platformed a bunch of people saying like, "Yeah, I'm not getting the vaccine. I don't want to do that." And he was like, trying to make it seem like they're having this like intelligent, thoughtful discussion.
Yeah.
And someone said, "Yeah, I already got COVID, so I'm not getting the vaccine." And he was like, "Yeah, it seems like that's really smart. I was thinking maybe it's probably safer to just get COVID than to get the vaccine." Which is just like
It's the same thing, except we took out the bad part.
we took out the
Yeah.
dangerous part.
It's everything the same, except instead of like risking your life for 2 weeks, you get a little shot in your arm.
Yeah. It's just like so frustrating. Just
yeah.
like
It's
Basing,
That's
just
literally
basing it off
shocking.
for
nothing.
people to just like
Yeah.
think they know what they're talking about
You're like a teenager.
and have just no like humility in saying like, I'm gonna leave it to someone who knows what they're talking about.
and
on
it seems
this.
like
Well, and
it seems
you
like,
you can look at the data that's in these reports showing the efficacy and
Yeah.
showing the safety, and some people might be a little concerned because they see how quickly this all seemed to happen. Like why are we approving these vaccines so quickly? Why is it an emergency use authorization versus the standard ways that vaccinations get approved? But part of the reason for that, part of the reason that we went through the emergency use authorization is because the risk of COVID is so very real. And we know that the risk of the vaccines is low enough.
Yeah.
It's very, 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 very low.
yeah.
So it would be, you'd be doing more harm by holding up access to these vaccines.
Yeah.
If you wanted to wait.
Yeah.
To go through.
It's just freaking like
So-
like statistics. It's just
And
like
part of the reason we were able to do this so quickly is because COVID has been spreading so rapidly through our society. Like normally to get this many, to let's say you wanted to develop a new measles vaccine. In order to get the kind of numbers that are to match, what we had for COVID would take so much longer because there's just so many fewer cases of measles, people getting
Yeah.
measles.
Right.
So, but this vaccine is much, like the tragedy of the scale of this pandemic is part of the reason why we were able to develop
Right.
vaccines so
Yeah.
quickly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like if the risk of getting the vaccine
Is lower.
was greater than
yeah.
the risk of getting COVID, we wouldn't be administering
Yeah.
the vaccine
Yeah,
because it
just
would
is
just be a
lower.
net bad.
Yeah,
It
and some
just
people
wouldn't be
might
any
say,
help.
Yeah, and some people might say, well, how do we know what all the risks are? Oh, excuse me. Got a little something in my throat. Sorry
How
about
long
that.
we've been
That's all right.
I'm good.
We've been probably going for way too long. But
It's all good.
but something that people should be thinking about is what are the systems that we have in place to ensure that these vaccines are indeed safe.
Yeah.
And there's all the stuff that happens before we start administering them. And there's also all the stuff that happens after we administer them.
Yeah.
And we're continuing to monitor. Like with AstraZeneca, there was this question of like, oh, wait, there's these blood clots that are showing up. Are those showing up at a higher rate? And if you follow the latest studies on that, something that people should be encouraged by is the fact that scientists are really interested in understanding what these risks are. And everything that we know so far is that the risks are so much lower than the risks of
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah.
And people aren't to say like it's not a global conspiracy. Like the fact that I have to like say that almost feels like I'm giving
Yeah.
too much
Credit
Credence.
to that.
too much credence to that kind of perspective. But if like you're suspicious of that, just remember that people are actually trying to understand how safe these vaccines are and are continuing this process. And,
Yeah.
and there's no good reason not to get a vaccine.
Yeah.
And then the final thing I'll say about this is, in addition to protecting oneself by getting the vaccine, vaccination as an effort is really about the community. It's really about protecting other people.
Yeah.
And getting to
Yeah.
a place
Yeah.
where the odds of someone coming into contact with COVID is becomes diminishingly small.
Yeah.
So even if you have friends who aren't going to get the vaccine, encourage them to get the vaccine.
Yeah.
But know that you're also helping them keep them safe by getting the vaccine yourself.
Yeah, like I'm not real. I think I'd be fine if I got COVID. I'm young and healthy, but like I would feel so bad if I infected some old person and they just died.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Like
it's-
that's terrible. Like,
And it's just like we have the option. We have these vaccines available. Get the vaccines.
It's not a hard decision. Like
yeah, it's so cringe. Gee whiz.
It's actually-
the main thing I've heard from people who say they're not is that they are under this impression, that like you said before, that the process was in some way rushed. And from everything I've read about it, it just seems like the reason that clinical trials normally take 2 to 3 years is because there's not this impetus to get it done faster. There's no fundamental reason why they can't be done in 6 months.
Yeah.
right?
No, it's we put the resources behind it.
Yeah.
And that we should be encouraged by the fact that you can get more done
Yeah.
if you put the resources into it. And the scale of the pandemic, like we'd let the pandemic grow to such a scale that you can have enough people, unfortunately have to get exposed to the disease to test the efficacy of the virus. And enough people were able to get exposed in a short amount of time because the pandemic was so widespread.
It's such a shame that like
But this isn't the biggest. That everyone's not united in just like joy.
Well,
about
it's such
this.
a shame that politics like interferes with science in that way, where it's just like, like global war or like climate change. It's just like,
Yeah.
we need you guys who don't know about it to just stay at like we gotta handle this. Like, I don't care if it's like politically effective to like say it's not real. You just gotta shut up. We just gotta do this. It's just such a shame that like that interacts with science in a way that just sucks and is like gonna cause
I feel like the problem is more
real
that
problems.
It doesn't interact with science, right? It's like the science is done. The science is not. It's not done, but the consensus is in on the vaccine. The consensus is in on climate change.
Yeah.
It's happening, and the vaccine is safe.
It's ju-
and it's just when people don't interact with that.
Well, yeah,
I'm hesitant to tell people they should just shut up. Like I
Yeah,
want people
I
to be
mean-
engaged, but it's important to not. If someone is saying something
I'm more
that
talking
they
about
know to be untrue,
Yeah.
or they believe because they're unwilling to just listen to evidence, like flat earthers. Mm-hmm. It's not a discussion. It's not a helpful discussion. It's not an informative conversation to just give equal speaking times to those who are interested in understanding and addressing a problem, and those who are interested in denying and ignoring a problem.
yeah. Well, especially like
Or a solution when it comes to vaccines.
like politicians who are incentivized to like spread disinformation about a very important topic, like that just like those are the people who gotta friggin' shut up.
I guess it's in some way valid if you what people on that side should have to do is you should have to acknowledge that the problem exists. You can then argue that it's actually better if we don't do anything about it, or it's actually better if we don't regulate this. You can make that argument, like go ahead and try.
Yeah.
But to deny that the first premise that the problem is
Yeah.
there is just kind of
You might get schooled if you do make that argument.
right. But like at least you're starting from a place that's like reasonable. Well,
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it reasonable, but at least you're starting from a place that's factual based.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if the question is about values, that's one that we can talk about. But when it's facts, that's not up for debate.
Yeah.
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 And, yeah, it's just sort of like
Do we want to have? Do we want to avoid some of the devastating effects of climate change? Mm-hmm. And maybe some people are like, no. Like as long as I have the wealth and privilege that I have, like, I don't actually care.
Yeah.
I wish that people would actually just say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then we can like evaluate that value system,
Yeah.
and critique it,
Right.
But yeah, but if you're not willing to, I think sometimes people maybe feel that way and just don't want to defend that position that they actually have.
Yeah. It seems like I never. It would just make me so uncomfortable to be in a position. Like, I've never understood not totally standing by your ideas, or your values. Like, if you have a value system and you're ashamed to admit it, or you have have a belief about something and
Then
you're
you kinda-
ashamed to admit it, short of like unjust social persecution, right? Like, obviously, like, you know, Jewish people want it during the Holocaust. They obviously want to hide that for their own, you know, survival, which of course. But like, if you
you're just
think
if
something
you're
about a
just
political issue or whatever, and you don't want to admit it, it's like,
You kind of know it's wrong.
why,
Yeah.
do you know deep down that you shouldn't believe that? Yeah, like if you're just protecting your own, you know, like material interests, but you know, like equivocate around that topic when talking about it, you know that it's wrong. You know that you shouldn't be thinking that. You know that it's like not the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think there are some people though who are just unconvinced by the science of climate change.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember. It's important to remember that.
Yeah, that's true.
Part of the reason for that is because of the disinformation campaigns that petroleum industry has engaged in.
Yeah.
I'm curious, are there any of your listeners who have, questions about climate change or are skeptical about that?
I would hope not, and I would not think so. Because we probably have like...
Abby, what's she think?
No, she's pretty in on
Okay.
science.
Well, then basically no.
Well, I mean, so
Yeah.
then there's a part of me that's like, having a conversation on this platform probably isn't even much advancing these issues.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it is really important for people to talk to friends, loved ones who are having trouble understanding the science, or are skeptical about it, where they hear one thing from their political leaders, then another thing from some scientist on the news, and this is why I think science literacy is so important.
Right.
Because we have two important things to talk about, and one is what are the set of facts. In order to understand the facts, we need some basic level of science literacy in our society, and the other is a question of values, and that's why we need to have those conversations as well, and talk about what is the world that we want to live in.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of think like science literacy, it's sort of, as a layman, you have to be willing to get taught stuff or learn stuff, but also, like you were saying, science communication, it is also on the part of scientists to make it communicable.
Yeah,
Like
make it
to
understandable.
break it down, because not that it's rational or founded in anything, but it's just sort of an inevitability that if you wrap up your findings in all sorts of, technical jargon and, 50 layers of stuff that people don't understand, it's less compelling.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be able to communicate, to express it in a way that is,
Makes sense.
100%, and
accessible.
And there's people at different kind of steps or different people who are engaging with this at different levels. So you'll have some
That's true.
scientists
Yeah.
who are doing that basic research to understand, okay, how are changing ocean temperatures affecting, the rates of certain fish spawning or migrating in certain parts of the ocean.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But then you also have people who are working for a policy institute in DC and are providing briefings to people on Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
And then you have the politicians who are going to take that information and then use that to push and argue for various policies.
Yeah.
You need all those things connected, and it's okay to have like a scientific community that has meetings that are very jargony.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But it can't end there.
Yeah.
You can't just
Right.
do science for the sake of advancing one's scientific career within a university setting. That isn't responsible.
Yeah.
It's not responsible to leave it at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and then it's kind of like, what was it all for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too, people not understanding everything that goes into the science at that sort of first level, and sort of not understanding maybe like the academic rigor that goes into like producing some of these scientific studies, where they'll see evidence presented in the form of a study or a number of studies, and they'll sort of weight that information equally with like something they heard a celebrity say on a podcast, right? Some sort of offhanded, maybe it's like a viral image on Facebook, and they'll sort of equate these two things as if, there's some disagreement on this.
Yeah,
when
I've
it's
heard
like,
both. Yeah.
I've heard both things, right? And it's not a properly calibrated understanding of, well, this is like extreme rigor, hundreds of peer-reviewed, rigorous studies versus like what you heard your uncle say at Thanksgiving, right? Like that you heard on Facebook.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're getting at why scientific literacy is important, why it's important when we're teaching people, when we're educating children to understand how to think critically about these things.
Yeah.
And that should happen both in those critical thinking skills should happen both in science classes as well as in humanities classes.
Yeah.
I think that as we have this like STEM push, it shouldn't be just about teaching kids how to do calculus and learn the principles of physics. We also need people to be able to critically engage in material, and that's something you do really well in. My wife, for instance, has a PhD in English, and she studies. She studied critical. What's it called? I forget what it's called. She studied narrative theory and critical analysis.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
And she would teach classes on critical analysis rather. So these are all connected. So that's my first point, that scientific literacy is important to be able to weigh the thing your uncle said against this consensus within the scientific literature. And then the second point is, I had a second point. What was it? It's important to have those conversations. It's important for me to be that uncle to my nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
It's important for you to be that voice at the table at Thanksgiving who can say, well, yeah, Uncle Bobby may say that.
Bob.
Well, okay. You want to say, hey, Uncle Bobby says this, but. And then you can bring your view in as well, and hopefully point people towards the science and learn how to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
We're 2:45.
Oh my goodness,
It's pretty long.
it's a long one.
I think that's our longest.
Do you edit
yet.
these?
No.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
People, I don't know.
We've broken them into two parts before.
Okay.
That was for views.
But
This was a lot of fun.
It was,
Yeah.
That
was fun.
was awesome.
I have a question. Not a real science. Well, just like is your whole family this sort of like scientifically engaged and like critical thinking and like basically smart?
I think I'm the odd one out in that I'm doing science.
Yeah.
My uncles are all like artists in various ways.
Oh, that's cool.
My oldest uncle is a filmmaker.
That's cool.
One of my other uncles is a steel artist. And another uncle is an architect, and my dad is a singer-songwriter and was a teacher at Santa Barbara Junior High.
Nice.
In English and the journalism
Yeah.
department. So yeah, I think what I've kind of gotten from my family is this is the importance of storytelling, the importance of art,
Yeah.
the importance of looking at the world in a, I guess, like in a way of like finding inspiration and being interested in telling stories.
Yeah.
And that is a skill that's really important in science as well.
Yeah.
Like as we said, like you can point to some statistic, you can point to a series of studies, but if you can make it compelling, that makes it very exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about like the Twitter thread that we did for my for this paper.
Oh, right.
That we just posted a preprint online. And there's something important about taking the work that we did and then distilling it down into a series of tweets with like exciting animations.
Yeah.
That gets a lot of engagement. And, in our case, it's a lot of engagement from like other scientists. But all that to say, storytelling is not the same thing as like a scientific investigation, but it's a really important part of this holistic effort of science, because science is fundamentally about organizing knowledge in a certain way, organizing knowledge in a way where hypotheses are tested, where understandings of the world evolve as you integrate new information.
Yeah.
And a big part of that organization of knowledge and evolving your set of accepted truths is finding ways to share that with the larger world.
Yeah.
Do you have any music or art background?
Well, I did,
Choir.
in choir
Yeah.
in high school, and I've always enjoyed singing and even like art making and
Yeah.
making things with my hands. It's always fun to do that. But I feel like I've always got like some little side project going,
Yeah.
whether that's during COVID, I've been working in the garden, and
Nice.
my plan now that I've got the thesis done and I have a little bit of time before the next thing, I'm hoping to finally pull the engine on my Beetle. Got a 1970 Volkswagen.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
And I need to replace the clutch. So, those are things too. I don't know if
That's
that's exactly art or
It's a little artistic.
or music. I think it's a kind of like engagement. I know it's that kind of like fun engagement where you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
interested in making things
cool.
happen.
Yeah.
Sweet. Do you know real quick? Like, do you have a plan of like what would be the next thing?
For me,
Yeah.
I'm actually talking. I've been talking with a professor at the Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich, Friedhelm Cervana. He's a guy I actually used to work with when he was a postdoc, and he's looking for a postdoc. He's looking to hire a postdoc in his new lab. We've been talking about a project that we're going to work on together, and I don't know if I should like talk about the details of this because we still need to like write the proposal.
Yeah.
But I guess the short of it is I'm going to be moving more into moving from like studying development to moving into studying neuroscience.
Oh, wow.
So looking at exciting connections between
Yeah.
leveraging some of the stuff from my PhD, but thinking about how we can integrate that with new experimental methodologies to start to learn new things about how the brain works.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
Would
about
you
it.
move to Germany?
Yeah. I mean, that's another reason we're excited is to have a chance to live in Munich.
That's epic.
Germany's I think it's pretty nice. Pretty good place.
Yeah.
Days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a little behind the U.S. when it comes to vaccinations, but it's a good thing that Tess and I, Tess being my wife, are both going to have our vaccines by
Yeah.
the time we go.
Yeah.
But hopefully they'll be only a few months behind the U.S. in terms
Yeah.
of getting everyone up to
Yeah.
natural immunity.
Yeah.
All right, last question.
Through vaccination.
Unless someone else has another question. Have you ever taken an IQ test? / what do you think of the IQ test?
I have not taken an IQ test. I think, the IQ test was a way of, was developed as a way to measure development. Like, are you learning things at, how like, are you learning things at the right rate? I think is how it was originally developed.
Mm-hmm.
But then it became used to study, to kind of quantify someone's general intelligence. That's just like something that you have.
Yeah.
And I think it's not perfect.
Yeah.
There's been tons of evidence showing that there's cultural bias in it. Is it useful? Maybe.
Yeah.
I think it's one of these things. It's probably has certain uses for understanding, or let's say you want to understand the impact of some environmental pollution, some lead contamination in the water, and you can use an IQ test to show that there's a consequence, there's a social consequence to poisoning people's water.
Yeah.
I think there's a good example of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. Should I do the
do
the
the
outro? Your last name is Shelton?
Yes.
All right. For Oliver Pelly, Ashton Pelly, Ben Weber, and Eli Shelton, I'm George Tracewell. Have a good one.